the January 28th, 2020 minutes.
Support. All those in favor? Those opposed? Let's see, we have a guest. Do we have public comment? No. Did you introduce yourself, please?
No, I'm Kathy Gutowski, and I am the treasurer for the Fowler Township DDA.
Well, welcome, thank you. Okay, now, there's no more public comment. You're on.
So before I do, Joyce, I just wanted to request that the minutes reflect that I've excused myself from the library board. I looked at Robert's Rules of Order to try to figure out how this runs, and I actually don't see a real model for where a board member then excuses herself and then goes and does such a type of presentation. So, but I just would like the minutes to reflect that I'm excusing myself from the library board so that I can then transition into making a presentation to the library board, and that I excuse myself from all discussion about the presentation before and after, and about the matter in general. And certainly will not make a
Do you
decision.
have to leave?
Pardon?
Do you have to leave the physical room
No, I don't think so.
when there's a discussion afterwards?
Oh, no, I just do not speak. I don't have to
Okay.
be.
I couldn't find anything either,
Yeah.
so.
But, so with that, I excuse myself. Teresa, will it bother you if we are standing right here? Caitlin, do you have the clicker? So you can stand up and sign. Well, thank you so much. So this is a little awkward. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Tamara Paswinka, and I am the DDA director for Fowler Township. And with me is,
My name is Caitlin Berard, and I'm the executive director of the Manistee DDA.
so in Manistee County there are 2 DDAs. And thank you so much for allowing us to come here and speak to you about the matter regarding TIF contribution. The library had such a great success in getting their millage passed. And when that millage passed, the new laws stated that the library no longer had to contribute to DDAs unless they elect to do so. And so you guys, we understand, are in the midst of having conversations about that. So thank you for allowing us to come and talk to you about the importance of a library contribution to the DDAs and the overall health of our community, which is Manistee County. But real quick, I just wanted to orientate you. Here is Fowler Township. That's where Wendy's and McDonald's and Walgreens is. It's roughly the border, the district is roughly the border between 12th and just north of Stronach Road. Both of these DDAs are a very well-defined geographic area. So you can see here the boundary, kind of just this light brown. Caitlin, why don't you tell them the boundary of the city of Manistee's DDA?
So the city, we're,
A little strange.
if you see flower lanterns or benches, flower baskets outside of buildings on the side streets off of River Street, that's your typical geographic of where the downtown is. We do the flower baskets, they go all the way through the district. So you can see we go just to the east side of 31 here.
Oops. Mm-hmm.
We're just one block over here, and then we go all the way down to Spruce.
Okay,
It's
so
just about to First Street. The Visitors Bureau is included in here, and Second Street is about almost north that we go.
So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to note that these DDA districts are very different. The city of Manistee is a very traditional downtown, where Fowler is a commercial, much more commercial strip type district along a highway. So 2 different DDAs, but with the same basic goal of helping to build community and make it a place that we all want to live, work, and play. And we put the population numbers up here, but basically what's important to know is that 34% of Manistee County's population live in these 2 communities, Fowler Township and the city of Manistee, really representing a place where a lot of people are spending time and living and enjoying the amenities, and the library is one of those. So, what is a DDA? I will confess that before I became the DDA director of Filer, having lived here for 5 years, I didn't even realize there was a DDA there. The city has had a DDA for a little bit longer than Filer's, but they've been around for absolute decades, and they've been working to undertake a lot of really important projects to improve the community. But what they do is they make very strategic investments in improving community, and they have many partners who do that. But the primary purpose of that strategic investment is to attract new development and new investments. And what they use to invest in the community are tax increment finance funds. And those funds are accumulated in two ways. There are contributors, and Manistee County is one of those contributors. So under that mantle is the library, the medical care, the jail, 911, dial-a-ride. But also Township of Filer, the City of Manistee, the Manistee Public Schools, the Intermediate School District, and West Shore College. So when DDAs are formed, they develop a plan, a development plan and a TIF plan. Those plans go out to public review, and entities are asked if they want to be a part of this strategically investing in community, and those entities said yes. So they actually give a part of their millage. And so just like we know the library contributes about $10,000 to Filer and about $7,000 to the city, those other entities also are contributing a certain amount. But the other way that they're generating funds is through this captured assessed value. So a little bit of a hard concept, but not really. At one point, your property is valued at so much, and you're taxed at that amount. Well, if you improve your property, you're going to increase your property value. And someday you're going to sell your house, and you're going to sell it for more money, right? And so you will have made money because you invested in your home and in your property. The community does the same thing, but it's in these geographic areas. We're investing in that area so that the value of the properties increase, and we're capturing more taxes. Well, the DEAs take that every year they take that increased value, and they use it to invest back into the community. At the end of the DDA's lifespan, and there are ends to it, that entire amount will revert back to the township. But the point of capturing that value that's increasing over time is that the DDA boards are dedicated people with one sole purpose: to improve community within that geographic area for the betterment of the whole community. And they are volunteers just like you are, and their purpose is to strategically use those funds with very thoughtfulness and carefulness, and they're entrusted with that. The hope is that these two DDA districts, serving the immediate third of the population of Manistee County, but also serving the whole Manistee County area, will produce a really thriving core to our larger Manistee County community. And when you have a really, really strong downtown core that people want to be in, you are, by leaps and bounds, bettering the entire larger county and region. When you have a failed downtown, when you have a failed commercial corridor, it leads to a failed region. And that is borne out all throughout the United States. Over time, you can see history of downtowns that are not successful, and then the region is not successful, and so you're not attracting people. And people are really important obviously for the library. So I'm going to let Caitlin take it from here. Oh, I'm sorry, this is my slide too. But that was a good segue, that people are really important to the library, because the library, we're asking you to support the DDAs, and why are we asking you to do that? Because we want the strong downtown so that we can have a prosperous region. And we want to grow communities, and DDAs do that through sewer and water, which is something that Filer just accomplished. They want to have business retention, attraction, and growth initiatives so that we can grow local businesses, attract other types of businesses and industry to the area. And housing, which is a huge economic development generator. It's something very much lacking in this area. So DDAs are part of that conversation and part of that solution, utilizing the funds that they receive through the TIF. Because ultimately, we're trying to increase population, and when we increase population, we're increasing our tax base. And we're also increasing the number of patrons using the library and the branches, which as a library board is something really important and something that I'm sure you track. Because ultimately, we want the library to grow. And we see that if you have a strong community, it equals a strong library. You have a weak community, a community that's not growing, that's not investing in itself, you've got a library that is not supported. And however your funding mechanisms are, I am sure that they are tied to strong community. So that is why we're asking you to support the DDA, but I'm gonna let Caitlin now take over.
You're doing a phenomenal job.
Well, you got your slides now.
Just highlighting what she was saying, we're, just like the library, we're organizations that are established to really invest back into these spaces in which we're live, working, and playing. These are in the placemaking, in the activities, in the events, and everything that the library is involved in. We do that same aspect in a different facet. We focus a little bit more on infrastructure, that business growth. This investment that we do helps sustain our community. It's really what brings value. It attracts our future residents, our future businesses, and it attracts the economic stability of our area. And so some of the things that both the Filer DDA and the Manistee DDA focus on, or have focused on and continue to, are a diversity of projects. And so as Tamara indicated, Filer and Manistee are a little bit different in how we go about that. Filer is a very much business and commercial district. They take on the face of 31, which is so intense. But everyone coming from south to the west of the Lake Michigan, they're driving right through Filer DDA. They're going right in through the middle of their corridor, and their corridor is what's gonna attract people to this space. Once they come up here, we try to attract them to the lake through the City of Manistee DDA, and we focus on that little bit more small niche, the flowers, the benches, the pretty light posts. Those are some of the small faced projects, but highlighting some of the things that we've done recently. I mean, without the sewer system that Filer just put in, you're not gonna get the growing businesses. They put a lot of time and effort into planning, to the labor, to making sure that that plan went out right. And because of that, they are now capable to take on that growth. In the city, we do a variety of things. We work with smaller businesses. So we have many programs that we offer: facade grants, liquor license, revolving loan program. We facilitate the downtown dollars. We've done wayfinding signage before. We've done placemaking studies in which we're looking to invest in. We're currently working with merchants on garbage corrals, sidewalk pavers, the sandblasting and painting, so our light posts and our flower baskets look nice. But things that we're looking for the future, things that we're gonna be really investing a lot of time and funds towards, are continuing to do those larger projects, to do massive signage, they're working on a mixed using housing project, and they really want to focus on walkability. The county is additionally working on a non-transit plan that we're both involved in. How are we bringing people into this community in a variety of ways, as opposed to just focusing on the molecular? We did a massive study just a couple of years ago that included signage, additional wayfinding, some riverwalk improvements, and we're also partnering with a large development project right on the corner of River Street and US 131, and as well as the college, that are going to be two separate anchors right in the one side of our downtown, right in the middle of the downtown. Large investment projects that we're hoping to help elevate and bring that investment back up.
Kevin, may I talk about the Western Park next year?
Yes.
And so likewise, Filer has been working on taking the south west corner of Marquee and US 31, basically where the Kmart Plaza is, in between Kmart Plaza and the US Forest Service, there's a big open space. The DDA strategically, well, the township actually strategically bought that property, so they're in ownership of it, which is a great incentive for a developer to then go in and develop a mixed-use housing project, single-family, townhouses, retail, great walkability pathways. So that's a project that they're working on to then
Lead into.
lead into our shared priority. Is that okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Which is housing.
Housing's huge for both of us. They've got the REC project, we've got our gateway project we're looking at huge development for that space. We have a housing shortage here in northern Michigan in general. That really prevents,
Affordable housing.
and we wanna create that. We wanna provide people a livable, engageable space. Northern Michigan is beautiful. We enjoy being up here, that's why we're up here, and we wanna share that. But right now, there aren't the resources. They don't have a place to live. When I first started here last summer, I looked for 5 months and couldn't find somewhere to live. And that's really scary. I wanna start my new life, I wanna be in northern Michigan for a reason, and I don't have that flexibility. But that's a huge focus for both of us. We wanna bring people to these counties, to this community, and we wanna share why we enjoy it so much. So you'll see large housing projects on both of our ends here in the near future, because as we put investment now into creating those opportunities, growing our community, growing our residents, growing our small businesses is gonna be a larger, greater investment for the future. Overall, Filer and Manistee we're really working together to see how we can collaborate and really intensify our area and our communities. Tamara has been a wonderful leader and partner for me since I've started here. Like I mentioned, I'm new to northern Michigan. I know I want to be up here, but I also want to make this the best place that we can make it possible. And there's a lot involved in making a community great. It does take the library, it does take our dial-a-ride transportation, it takes great school systems, it takes great infrastructure. It takes organizations that really do want to focus on engaging residents, working with walkability, working on biking, and it's all of us working together that really makes all of it facet together. Thankfully, and this is so cool of a small community, we have very diverse and activated organizations. Not all small communities have very invested boards, volunteer groups, and the diversity of them. But up here, everyone wants this to be a better place. Everyone wants to invest that, and our partnerships are really what we're gonna see that investment in the near future. We're getting there, but she's got massive housing mixed-use projects, we've got massive ones. We're right on the cusp of seeing really great change, and it's gonna be very soon. But as this process goes on, DDAs are a little complicated on how the funding mechanism is, how we run as an organization. So if you do have comments or questions of how any of this operates, or even what our involvements are in projects, please feel free to hang out with us. We don't have a problem bragging about the awesome things that we want to partner on or the projects that we're working on. We'd love to hang out with you and talk to you about them. Do you have any immediate questions for us?
I have a few questions if you're can I ask questions? Okay. With Filer Township and the sewer system, was there a commitment for future repayment of that debt from DDA?
Well, I really appreciate you asking that question, and our board member, Kathy Gutowski, is here. She introduced herself before, so she can speak to this too if she wants to, as the treasurer of the Filer DDA. But every single month, the DDA, every single year the DDA pays $90,000 to that total debt. And in fact, they are so concerned about reducing their debt exposure that when they do, through their own fiscal responsibility, find chunks of money that they have not earmarked for projects, they are paying down that debt. I have never seen, other than maybe the Manistee County Library Board, a more fiscally responsible group of folks. So yeah, they are very concerned about limiting their debt and the length of that debt, but it is the DDA's responsibility and commitment to reducing that debt. But I will just reiterate what Caitlin said. There is no single greater economic development driver than having a sewer system. And Filer took a while to get there, but that's because they saved and saved and saved, and when they actually went to do it, they're one of the few countries or communities I've ever seen that was able to pay a huge chunk with the money that they were saving and fiscally responsible with to basically buy that system. So, so yeah, does that answer your question, Dave?
Yeah, it does. I knew part of the answer already, but I
Okay.
wanted to make sure it was still the same.
Okay, thank you.
The total revenue for the year is
148,000.
148. And I have a similar question for downtown. In the past, when they did streetscape, there was general obligation bonds issued, and DDA pledged dollars towards that. Is that still ongoing?
We are paying our last interest payment on our current bond this upcoming spring. So our current DDA one isn't in debt.
In debt, okay,
Congratulations.
And we are in the process of making a payment. We've been in contact with rural development on that sewer system.
so,
And we have a pretty sizable chunk of money that we are going to pay on that
yeah.
for part of this.
All set, Dave?
No, one more question. The development on, I'll say, the east side, VIS 31, the big plan project, I would assume that none of that land has been put in the trust, because a lot of that is tribal land or been purchased by the tribe. Am I wrong, or?
It's an economic development.
It is an economic development, so it will add to the base of the DDA and then capture the tax accordingly.
Yes, yes. Each part, there's, I believe, 8 parcels.
So they have their base that was established
Yeah,
at X, and whatever the value is after completion of the project will be, the difference will be your tax share.
yes.
Okay.
That was,
So that will be, could potentially be a big boost.
it will be that and the old Glicks building with the college nurses, both of those anchors will be huge.
Joyce, did I see your hand?
Yes, you did. 2 questions. First of all, is the library in the district, the DDA district?
You are in the city of Manistee's.
The city of Manistee's
You're
DDA
not.
district, so the
We
answer is
are-
yes.
The answer is yes, okay. What about the signage for the library on 31 in our directional? Is that still in the plans?
Redoing the US 31 signage and the gateway signage, yes.
Yes, it is?
Yes,
Okay, because we discussed that before.
Yes.
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, just verifying, okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you for asking.
Well, I have one, I just thought of it. When you're going for housing, and it's mixed-use housing, I read in yesterday's paper that, there's the senior citizen, which is, to me, a fabulous idea.
The cottages or the
Yes, and it still does not address the young families. So, my question is there anything in the plan, now or in the future, about licensed babysitting services, daycare, childcare? Because when you have a young family, you can assume you have the need so they can work.
That is one of 5 core barriers that is part of every conversation that we have when we talk about bringing in jobs and bringing in additional housing. So I'll highlight it with Project Rising Tide. The city of Manistee was chosen out of just a handful of cities in the state of Michigan to really have a focus from the state of Michigan. We got a fellow who initiated several studies and plans, and it included economic development plan, housing plan, new branding, and board training for the city of Manistee. And 5 barriers are housing, childcare, transportation, infrastructure. Okay. There's one more that is part of each conversation. How do we address that? How do we have our employers work together? Our our employers gonna have a resource network? What is the city's role in it? What are our community organizations in it? Will the college now have a new role because they're downtown? It's a very important aspect, especially if we are trying to attract professional and young families coming up here.
Well, I was just wondering, is there a way, and I haven't checked it all out thoroughly, but I understand there's a lot of laws on the books as far as maintaining and licensing a child care facility, which is why so many of them disappear.
Yes.
And, not that I'm suggesting a walk around, but I am just wondering if there any way to work within this legal structure so that somebody, not necessarily all the employers getting together, but an individual or a corporation can actually establish a child care facility.
Not too dissimilar to how the tribe set up their child care center, yeah.
Yeah.
We definitely have more of those.
However, that, they don't fall within the laws.
I don't know anything about that choice, but as Caitlin mentioned, these are conversations the community is having. And the thing about DDAs is that they are positioned to be at the table, having these conversations, advocating for these ideas. And that shows just another value for a DDA.
Yeah, well, my question is because I believe the tribes are considered sovereign nation. And with that being said, I don't know how our national laws, state laws apply to them. And if that would be another subset in the barrier.
Good.
Something to think about and definitely check out. Maybe you'd like to be part of the conversation to add another thing to your plate. But are there any other questions do you have any other?
I have 3 questions.
You're done with
I'm done with
questions?
questions.
I don't believe that. All right, well, I will thank you for your time and your effort and your consideration.
Yes, we're very appreciative. If you need our contact information, both Deb and Tamara have both of ours. We're really excited about the great projects that are happening in the near future. We really are engaged in getting our partners together, and we would love the library to be one of those partners as we put these great things together. So again, if you have any questions, we'd love to hang out, but thank you for allowing us to take some time out of what I heard is a long agenda, but we appreciate you hanging out with us, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing
Thank
your
you.
information.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Are you gonna welcome
So,
yourself back to the board?
Joyce, I would like to have permission to re-enter the board meeting, and I'd like the minutes to reflect that.
Yes.
I actually asked for the permission. Thank you.
Okay. Now, if our guests wish to leave, that's fine, because, the rest of the agenda is
And thank you very much.
very long.
Thank you, Kathy, for coming. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. Thank you, Caitlin. That's unusual.
All right, there's no correspondence? Okay, then we move on to financials. Dave?
You should have got your financials in your packet. If you turn in 2 pages to page 2, you have the balance sheet as of January 31st, 2020. You can see the various cash positions at the end of January. And then the other assets, penal fines, $11,000 for the month, property tax receivable, 403, 989.50. So that should have come in already if it has not. Accounts payable are pretty normal. The accounts payable to Manistee County, again, which is for reimbursing them for payroll and related payroll tax expenses, is about what it normally is at this point in time. Moving to the next page, page 3, statement of revenue expenditures. previous year comparison. You can see for the month of January, penal fines are actually up a little bit compared to that of the previous year. And then moving down 3/4 of the page to tax income, you can see that the current property taxes coming in for January are higher than what they were last year. So obviously people are paying a little bit quicker their real property taxes than they did in the past year.
So it's a matter of speed, not increased tax base.
Correct, correct. And then looking at the expenditure side of it, starting with personnel, then moving to the next page. Personnel expenses down there again. We touched on that again. That all has to do with a little bit with the delay in the billing coming from the county on benefits, but that will catch up. Subscriptions about the same. Moving on down, less was spent in AV for the current month. There was a capital outlay spent for $1,300, 3/4 of the way down, and then fees and services are down for the current month compared to last year.
Is that a matter of timeliness?
Timing, yeah, there again, in that category, there's fees from the county, and those are down from the previous year. So it's timing. I don't expect them to be higher than normal on an annual basis, but it's just monthly timing. Buildings and grounds was down a little bit. Branches was about the same. Moving on down, as you can see, the net income in January was $369 compared to $222 the year before. But then again, you've got $80,000 more in just property tax revenue recorded in that month, and the other has to do with expenditures. And that again is timing in nature. Moving on to page 6, which is statement of revenue expenditures, previous year comparison. So this is October through January. And as you can see, the penal fines are down a little bit from that of the previous year. But when the budget was made, it was budgeted with a lower number than what was actually received last year on a conservative basis. So we'll see that when we get into the budget statements here. There again, property tax revenue is a little bit higher. So total overall revenue is a little bit higher so far this fiscal year compared to that of the previous year, about $68,000. It's just higher in timing, not necessarily higher as it's going to be higher at the end. Then dealing with the expenditures, staff, if we move to page 7, you can see the personnel expenditures are actually up overall for the 3-month period, or 4-month period, I should say. Subscriptions are up a little bit. There again, they're not equal through the year though. Some of that is upfront stuff, and once it occurs, does not occur again for another 12 months. Programming, same way there. Books, same thing. They're ordered as needed and not actually ordered through the year equally. AV materials, anything dealing with collections area is ordered when needed or when available, not necessarily equally through the year. Computer support, you can see the decrease there. Moving on to the next page, page 8, looking at expenditures, capital outlay, you can see is down a little bit. That is timing of projects. Fees and services are down a little bit. We just talked about that just a little bit ago. Buildings and grounds is about the same as compared to a year ago at this time. Branches is about the same. No major changes in the last 2 categories there. Looking at page 9, supplies are up a little bit. There again, supplies were ordered, not ordered equally through the year, so don't expect a major issue there. Utilities are actually down a little bit, so that's good. And so, you know, last year at this time, you had a profit of 133 compared to 201 at this time this year. And that basically is the accelerated payment of property taxes.
How do you know it's accelerated? Did somebody tell you that?
No, I just look at the numbers and compare, you know, last year we had 3 something coming in January, and this year we had 403. So it's gotta be, there's no other, I mean, yeah, the property values did increase, and we increased that in the budget, but there wasn't a $68,000 increase in our share of property taxes. I mean, it would be really nice, okay, but it's not logically.
I mean, on some respects, yeah.
So, yeah, it's that accounting stuff, it just sort of gets here. So if you look at the next statement, it's a statement of revenues and expenditures, budget versus actual, which is statement 10, or page 10. Now you're 4 months into the year, so we should be looking at, on the revenue side, something around 33% of budget to be online. So if we go down these categories, you'll look at that and see that. And on the expenditure side, we're looking to see if anything is over 33% of the total budget, to see if we've got a problem area. And as you can see, I talked about the penal fines a little bit earlier. There was 140 budgeted, we're at 46. We're at 33.0%, right on budget. So, as I said, even though we were down compared to the prior year, the budget amount was lower than what actually was received last year, to be on the conservative side. The other income category is less than budget. There again, that's timing when it comes in.
So David, so anything over 33% is something that we should be concerned about?
If it's an expenditure
If it's
side.
an expenditure.
If it's a revenue side, you should be happy.
You should be happy, 37% is online.
Okay. So, and some of the expenditures don't, or revenues don't come in equally, like the property tax. I mean, if you go to the income tax, 473,000 so far, supposed to receive 1,162,527. So there's still $689,000 in property tax revenue to come in. Now, some of that will be received. The townships and cities settle at the end of March their tax rolls and report to the county. And then anything that's not paid at that point in time is turned over to the county. And then in June, all real property taxes are paid over to the taxing units, what is owed to them, whether the county collects it or not. And then the county goes after the property owners for the delinquent tax. But you're made whole by the end of June. So unless there was an error in calculating that number, and there will be some, you know, changes in the assessments, but nothing usually of any major. It's usually less than the library share is usually less than $5,000 in change in any given year. It's not a major dollar amount.
Just to go backwards real quick, on expenses, Deborah, so there are some that are over 33%, like David said, some of that is spending because it's bulk and it's spent for the year. Is there anything in here that was surprising to you that you think maybe were, even at this point, maybe you didn't hit the mark with the budget?
I think it's good.
So like adult
like you said,
magazines
some
and
of
stuff like that?
it, some of it, you know, the ebooks is paid in advance,
Okay.
and other, you know, we paid for the ILS system, but that actually came in under, so that's good. But like you said, you know, the books,
Yeah.
the DVDs, they're all ordered.
Okay, so nothing on here you were like, ooh. Okay. Thank you, David. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Nope, that's fine. That just speeds me through my next pages. So, I mean, basically, there are a couple, like you pointed out, that are over the percentage. but there are things where the expenses is not equally through the year. So right now, you're a positive 201,5, I'm on page 13, sorry. 201,550 in revenue over expenditures at this point, but there was a balanced budget, so it should be at zero. In all cases at the end of the year.
Well, that's pretty cool to be so on like that with our budget. Good.
That's
the goal. Good job, Deborah, staff, for sure.
So, and then the next page is the capital improvement fund, which shows the balance that's in there at this point in time. Basically, the only thing that's been earned there is interest income during this year. You are scheduled to make transfers over of roughly $15,000. And we usually do that once the property tax collection period is over with.
Did you say 15,000?
Yeah, it's what's scheduled to be over. Transferred from the general fund into it. I think it's, I added it real quickly in my head when I was on the one page. Yeah, 15,000. It's on page 13, the transfers out. You can see them there. So 5 for the parking lot, 5 for the roof, and 5 for the van.
Okay, don't be mad at me, 'cause I know we talked about this so many times, and I just can't remember the parking lot resurfacing. That's over, that's not capital, but that's somewhere else that we're,
There's a parking lot line other than this other
in
one,
the,
in the budget.
budget, yes.
Yes.
Use that on.
Okay, it's all right, I'll find it. I will try not to ask that question again. Feel free to roll your eyes if I do that. But really, what page is that on?
It might not be reflected in here, but it is in our budget.
It's on top of page 12.
You find it? Oh, there it is.
Oh, look at it now.
Thank you so much, I appreciate that. Thank you.
I have a kind of general question as a new board member. It looks like the bank account on page 1, the very first page, runs around 4,000 to 6,000. I looked at a couple, 3 months of these reports. Is that actually money in checking that's sitting there to be drawn on for expenses, so it's available for whatever, anytime, or is that money that, in other words, is that $478,900 is something that's going to be there year round, or is it going to go down through the end of the year?
It will actually substantially go up because of the property tax revenue collections.
Right.
So it'll go up and peak in probably, say, April. And then it'll start dwindling down the rest of the year because your revenue stream is very minor other than property taxes throughout the year.
And it gets drawn down through the year.
Through the year. The general, I guess I'll use the word burn, is after you reach the peak in the account, it's somewhere around, if there's no major projects, you should see that go down somewhere around $100,000 each month. The general goal has been when we get to the end of the fiscal year, which is September, and because there are no property tax or no revenue basically in the first quarter of the fiscal year, is to have somewhere between $300,000 and $350,000 in that account at the end of September to finance activities to the first. Been above that the last few years, but that's been the general theory.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Is there a motion?
I move that we
present to all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Now we move on to the administrative report.
As you can see, there was a lot going
I
on.
was just gonna say, you usually have a full 2 pages.
2 pages,
But
and
we're
I'm
on to the third,
I know, I was
so
telling Julie, I'm like, I
Wow.
filled 3 pages, what's going on?
too much for us to read maybe, I don't know.
I also included in your board packet, we have created staff committees to touch on various things going on in the library. So I included those reports. Those were just for your information so that you were aware of things that we were working on, things that we have upcoming, just to kind of keep you in the loop to what's going on. So I think they're going quite well. It's really giving the staff opportunity to do things that they haven't done. We have one employee who every Monday, she sends out a little blurb to the staff about a Melcat database, and the staff is to try to, let patrons know about that database for the week. So a lot of things are working well.
And by the way, I appreciated these very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I found them very intriguing because it's like there is excitement from within that we weren't even aware of, and lots of activity.
Turning a corner kind of feeling.
A lot going on.
Yes.
Yeah.
So along that, Deborah, I just was so happy to see this last sentence on your first page of your report, that you've been promoting positivity and kindness, and the work environment is improving because everyone's being kinder to each other.
It's-
I really like seeing that kind of statement. That's such a nice, that's so nice.
It's something we've been working on, since shortly after I arrived here. We talk about it at our staff meetings. When Layla and I went to the MLA conference in the fall, the director from Kent District Library, that was really something they're really promoting in their library. And so Layla actually gave a little presentation to the staff, at one of our meetings about, promoting kindness. I was just talking with the youth services coordinator yesterday, and around her clock, and I had her posted on Facebook, and it's getting a lot of attention. How does it go? It's
Time to be kind.
time to be kind, or something, go in the children's room.
Nice
You
and
know,
simple,
so,
yeah.
so we're really promoting it a lot, because it is, we all look at the world today, and if we can just be kind to each other, not just our patrons, but to each other, it just makes the environment a lot better, and we see a lot of people promoting it, and the more that we can do it, we're, with our new staff, we're getting these, we have a new part-time cert clerk, she's full of energy, positivity, just bringing a lot more kindness here.
Love
Yeah.
it. If
Yeah.
I may ask one more question.
Yeah.
The meeting with Benzonia, Beulah, Thompsonville library directors, just kind of wondering what you guys discussed, if it's like a usual meeting that you have, and if there's anything interesting that came
We
out of
try
it.
to get together, we haven't probably in almost a year, just to share what we're doing, things that we could possibly collaborate on. They're all in the same area, so they do a lot more collaboration than with us, but just to get ideas, with each other. I did it with, when I was out in Colorado, and it really helps when, directors can get together, kind of support each other, talk about ideas, even, talk about what's not working, what's frustrating you, and, because we do a lot of the same things, just at a different level.
Did any ideas for projects for collaboration come out of this particular meeting?
Not really,
Not really?
not really. I think it was more like, sharing.
Okay. Yeah.
Mhm. Any other comments? I did want to, as I wrote, this summer check got lost in the mail. And so, I contacted PNC, and it was issued in late November, but we never received it. So they had to send, to stop payment on it and so that they could reissue a new one. So that we should be receiving that sometime soon. And it's, I believe, $29,400. So a little bit higher than last year, so that's good.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
In getting the information out to the organizations and the community, did you get feedback?
For what?
Under marketing,
We're not there yet. I've got the stuff on my table and we're going to start getting out there.
good.
Can I add something about that, since we're talking about
Yep,
that?
yep.
This is something I don't think we really talked about yet, kind of, but one of the things that we've been really trying to do is to work on marketing and different avenues for that. So we did make some new connections, and one of the areas that we're wanting to connect with is outside of the main library, so into the reaches of the branches. And how we're doing that for March, we made a contact at the Freshwater Reporter, and we've also made a contact for the Bulletin Board News, and they're both running free, I guess, advertisements for us. If they have space in their paper, they're putting our programs in it. And I feel like those are really good, especially the Bulletin Board News, because it gets disseminated on, it's very popular out by Brethren, out by Wellston, our lower income areas. So it's really gonna help bring people in that wouldn't otherwise have access to the, Manistee News Advocate, because it's a paid for, research. This is a free paper, so we're really excited about that one, but we're also excited about the Freshwater Reporter.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the
That's
bulletin
wonderful.
actually put our, I think I gave each of you a newsletter, the back page, the calendar, they actually put that in the January one,
Yes.
or February one.
Yes.
February one, so it was
January-
actually in it.
Yeah, January we started working with them, February was the first month that we were involved, and we're continuing on with
That's
that.
fantastic. This is fantastic. Thank you for, again, for
really
giving
nice.
this to us. It's just, whoever does these, you do a great job putting
Thank
these
you.
together. I think they're so
Thank you.
colorful and fun, and
We want our stuff to look
this is
inviting.
just really, this is fantastic.
She does a great job.
Really, and the events that you choose are really, I think, on point for the interests of the community, for sure.
Yeah, look, I believe the March 30th, we're going to have. 31st. What's the guy's name?
What is this?
Talking about mushrooms.
Anthony Williams, he's like a championship morale mushroom hunter.
How appropriate, because tonight is the mushroom movie at the Vogue.
And
So-
so-
We're all members, right, at
Yes,
7
so-
p.m. And I've seen some of the previews, they are amazing.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Thank you so
it should
much
be
for that.
different and fun.
Any other questions, comments? I don't know if anybody noticed, but this room has been repainted.
I did not notice.
Well, that's
It's
critical.
a good thing, it's a good thing we did it at the same time.
Very smart.
I got a
Same
question.
color or?
The middle is actually, it
Little
was,
lighter.
it's, no, it's more green. It was white. It was more, yes. So anyway, so yeah, so we have this done. I'm gonna have Rome look into redoing the floors in here. And then we have a project in the children's room. We got the DVDs off the wall. We're gonna take down that rack. I'm gonna find a countertop to put across so that we can have like kids' activities going on all the time. So yeah, a lot going on.
You do get the minutes from the Council Library, don't you?
The what?
The minutes?
No.
You don't?
Mm-mm.
I've been getting them every month for the last 10 years. Because Springdale and Cleon both passed their taxes for that.
Oh,
library.
yeah.
Nice work, Deborah, and staff, for all of that.
Thank
2.5 pages of a lot of really good stuff. And congratulations on being appointed to the Historic District Commission. That's
Thank you.
really fantastic.
I went to my first meeting, it was interesting, but I really think, and it was, because they're going through how you have to do, to do repairs and all of that, and I thought it was very fitting because we're gonna need some work here, so.
But then you'll know all
I'll
the
know what
ins
to
and
do.
outs.
Yeah.
Okay. Any more questions on the administrative report? Thank you very much. We have a guest.
Just the elevator guy.
That's the elevator guy.
Just the elevator.
This one's be Otis, wouldn't it?
Shall we wait for the electrician?
We probably get through some of it.
Can I be excused, or do you need me for anything else?
No problem, unless you wanted to stay and listen to their presentation.
I seen the quote was in here.
Yes.
He's good.
Here's
It's
it's good.
good with it?
We're on the verge
I'm
of
good.
tax season.
Here, I'll give you this one too.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is more way out.
As long as you're good with the quote, as they did, we're happy.
That is more of a budget, it's not a hard number quote, so that's just provided for some information of a direction to go. Once you start
Correct.
finding funding for that, so.
It's an estimate that could vary anywhere from 10 to 15%.
Correct.
Based on the money in your capital improvement fund, I don't see an issue with it.
Yeah.
How's that?
That sounds
Here we
good.
go.
Thanks,
I like-
Amy.
Thank you.
Yep,
I knew we were finding money for a reason.
You're right.
yep. Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks,
you.
David.
Have a
We're,
good day.
as I announced before, we're gonna jump ahead on our agenda, and we're going to,
Here he is.
aha.
Let's go. Come on.
Beautiful.
Perfect.
Come on in.
Welcome.
Please, don't be shy. You want to sit in the first row?
Right on point? Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And would you all be so kind as to introduce yourself to the rest of the board?
Sure. My name is Mark Project of Project Electric. Most of you probably know me. We do a lot of work in here, so.
I'm Jared Finney, I'm with Coney Elevators.
I'm sorry, say your name again?
Jared Finney,
Jared.
F-I-N-I-C-H. I'm the service superintendent, my technician's the one that does quarterly maintenance here in the facility.
Okay.
So is that what you'd like to discuss first, is the power situation?
Well,
I
that's
know
the
we have a
most
couple of
urgent,
agendas.
don't you think?
Well,
Yeah. Well,
I mean, I'm sorry, but
No, I
that's the way I
understand.
look at it.
I understand, and this problem has come up before, we talked about this before. And without having power logic on stuff, you can't really tell exactly what's going on. But in my professional opinion, it's that open delta, which it's the way years ago consumers, there's a lot of, well, there's not as many of them out there anymore because they know that they're unstable and they've been replacing them with a grounded Y, which has a grounded neutral in it, which stabilizes that. The problem with that open delta is the voltage jumps around a little bit. And things that are sensitive to that, which is why your drives fault out all the time for the heat. The old style mechanical overload stuff, that usually can take it. I'm not really sure what happened with the elevator. I mean, obviously the motor burned up, you don't exactly know why. I never did find any smoking gun, but in my professional opinion, that power bank is the root of all your problems. In my experience, out at the state park, for instance, I had constant trouble with the water well out there. We burn up drives, we burn up the wells a couple of different times. Consumers rebuilt that power bank to a grounded Y, haven't been back there since. It's been years. Same thing with the Manistee Weir. That was Great Lakes Energy, but we had the same thing going on there. The old mechanical overloads did pretty well. When they redid that weir and put all that solid state stuff in there, which is like an electronic type overload, well, they were tripping all the time because it doesn't like them spikes and that voltage like that. Now, I did present a quote for changing that panel, that fuse panel out to a breaker. And obviously, it's going to be a couple grand more to put a new feeder out and set a new meter base for the new system. And I doubt consumers is going to do it for free. So what the next step on that would be to whoever board member or whoever's in charge of the electric, or whoever's responsible for that, to call in that 1-800 number, which is 1-800-477-5050, and make a request for that. And then what that'll do is they'll assign it to an engineer, and then I can take it from there. You know, and we can get them over here, and we can talk about it, and what the expense is gonna be, because they'll have to rebuild that power bank. Now, what tabled it last time is most likely that parking lot's gonna have to be cut up, because it comes underground from that pole. You know, so, if it comes to that, I can get a quote from, say, Ron Brown, I work with him to cut and patch that parking lot to get a new conduit over for that. Because we're missing one wire, you know, because there's no, because it being an open delta, there is no grounded neutral, so it's only a 3-wire straight 480 coming over here. You know, I know, but basically,
I understand.
they'll rebuild that power bank with a grounded system, and then that voltage, that stabilizes that voltage, that's what that neutral does, it'll flatten that out, so you won't get those peaks and spikes, and I'm 99% sure your issues will go away. You won't be tripping in drives anymore, you know, you won't be burning motors up, you know. That's what I think, you know. To prove it, consumers is never gonna tell you they did anything wrong, but they're replacing them open deltas all over the place because they're dangerous, and they have burned up some meter sockets here and there, and I mean, we had a guy out on an old farm out here, north of town, that went to set the meter one time and it blew up right in his face, you know, so. They can be dangerous, and that's why and you might be able to work with them, because I would think they're gonna wanna do that. I had an engineer here a couple of years ago to look at that, and we kinda started the ball rolling, but then it was gonna be quite an ordeal to deal with, and nobody wanted to deal with it at the time, you know, so.
So I never like to go into the past, but I guess you just led me there. So this is something 3-5 years you've been here looking at it, thinking about it, assessing it, seeing
Well, they
the
complained about it
issues.
before, that the
Okay.
drives were tripping all the time, and then, because we didn't originally do that, Topline did, and I know that them guys came back and they increased the parameters on that. I don't know, who resets that drive when they go down, the maintenance guy?
Yeah.
Somebody does.
Yeah.
Does he know what the fault was? Was it overvolt fault or undervolt fault? Probably. I'll ask him, but. Yeah, this came up before, and they asked me then what I thought the problem was, and that's what I told them. And then, you know, like I said, I had the engineer here looking at it, and then it was gonna be quite an expense to deal with, and at the time, they're like, well, we're just gonna let that go for now.
Is the expense your quote, the 5,000?
That was the lighting quote, I think, wasn't it?
What am I looking at? Oh, yeah, that is
Yeah,
the
I gave you
lighting.
more than one quote,
I'm
one was for
sorry,
some lighting.
so
and-
sorry.
I think it was roughly, $8,000, let's see, I got that.
I'm sorry, I'm looking through my papers to see if I
Yeah.
have that quote. Maybe it wasn't provided to us, the quote for the.
Yeah, it should have been.
The what? Yeah,
Yeah.
Facilities committee had
there was 2.
That quote was to change that switch gear out from fuses to a nice I-line panel with breakers in it, so we're not screwing around with these fuses all the time, because, you know, they're $25 a piece when you blow them, and then when I quoted that, I quoted it with a neutral kit in it, so that if you decided to go forth with this power bank situation, nothing we would do would have to be done over it. Other than, we will probably have to run a new conduit from the meter socket, because we're adding a 4th wire, and I don't think the conduit's big enough. It might be, but it looked like it wasn't when I had it apart.
Mark, obvious question, or obvious answer, I think, but it won't hurt to hear it. If we were to do a total elevator replace, it would still make sense to replace the line.
I would, because that new elevator equipment's probably gonna have solid state equipment in it.
Can I answer that? So even on the old elevators, I mean, I'm just gonna say stuff that's really gonna support them. Along the lake shore and even some inner cities actually have power fluctuation. We call it dirty power, just like you've installed new HVAC equipment that has drives. All elevators, whether hydraulic or traction, now have a drive type system with solid state in there. So going forward, we have seen customers have electricians putting a surge protector on the incoming power. It kind of helps in a way, but it's still, if we get dirty power to the drive, it could blow the drive, or it could actually rinse more of the solid state components. There are quite a few solid state components in elevators now, so yeah, dealing with this problem first is actually, it's really needed. I mean, even on your HVAC systems. too, so.
Yeah, that's what we were.
And the surge protector helps, like you said, we've got them on both systems, this is the three-phase and the single-phase system. That's really only gonna help you on a major surge or a lightning type strike. It's not gonna even out those, you know. Like one day I'll come here and check that and that voltage will be over 500. And then the next time I come here, it'll be 480 something or 490. So it's definitely telling me that that voltage is bouncing around. And if you get one of those legs that jumps way high, you know, that could have, you know, done some single phasing and maybe blown that fuse. The overload should have took it out. I mean, there's a lot of shoulda, coulda, wouldas. I can't, once it was done, I can't exactly tell you what happened. But I guess in my opinion, making the call to consumers and the estimate is free on their part. So then we would know, you know, what it's gonna entail. You know, and I can, like I said, I can get a quote on dealing with that parking lot if you'd like, or if you have somebody, obviously I can see it's been cut past one time before, I don't know who did that or how long ago that happened, but that was the big hang-up. Now, we could eliminate that and come in overhead, I just didn't know if you guys really want that, we don't have that now, but to bring that line in overhead to the building. You know, and then for me to put a riser up and all that stuff, that would, you know, I mean, the cost would probably be pretty close to the same.
So yeah, I think we can talk about that parking lot because I think we've got a number of things to talk about as a board because that was on our list of projects to do, so.
Oh, the parking
I'm
lot?
just saying to you guys, it could be really good timing,
I think it's real good.
so, that, yeah, to kind of run those.
You could
projects.
schedule this like in the mid to late spring, where it's not too hot, it's not too cold. That 483-phase system only runs your heating and cooling in that elevator. You could fully operate here and nobody would know it was shut down. You know, that's just an option. Otherwise, it would probably take a couple of days to do.
So
A couple of days.
what you're both saying is the grounded wire, changing that out is gonna be key to minimizing our future problems.
I think your problems will go away, I really do, just by the past experiences that I've had with these systems. You know, like that water well at the state park. I was there constantly with that. Every time the wind blew or it rained or it stormed, I was back there because something was burned up. Well, they were blaming it on the weather and I could never find any signs of lightning strikes. As soon as we rebuilt that power bank, I haven't been back there for that since.
So, not putting the elevator repair off any longer, what are we talking, a timeline?
You could replace the motor alone and be up and running, and then that'll get you through to get this elevator back and running. But the proposal deals with some other issues with the elevator, not only the age, but also the hydraulic jack in there. But the power is pertinent because you've got
Right.
HVAC units on there now. We've actually replaced a drive on one of our elevators, and consumers hooked the wire back up wrong after another power outage. Sometimes buildings don't see it because the 110 may not flicker, but it just doesn't take much of a fluctuation in the power, which I call dirty power. It's not clean, it's not straight across the way it's supposed to be. So it fluctuated, it took the drive out for the second time within a week, and when they hooked the one leg back up, everything in the building ran beside the elevator and blew the drive back out in the elevator. And that was on consumer's end, but it was at a power point down the road from the building, so it took a little bit to find that. So power issue, anything is pertinent to get that running. Motor replacement would get, and then a soft start on that would get the elevator up and running in a minimum amount of time. So, I mean, our work is a lot more than 2 or 3 days to get the elevator ordered and get it into manufacturing and to get it tore out and to deal with that. So that's a little bit more of an intrusive project to the building itself, so.
What is your understanding of what the timeline would be for repair then? Or how much time are we talking?
Everything's pretty much stocked, so I mean, it could be within a week or two. Once we get to go ahead and get the material here, I mean, it's not, it's all in the same day, so it's not a big deal to
It's the
pull
same
up.
day repair?
Yeah, yep. We may have to have the inspector go, there's some price in there in the repair proposal, if the inspector decides that he needs to witness this addition of the soft start, which,
What is your experience on the timing of getting a inspector in?
Not very good. I mean, this guy is not too bad out here, but again, I may not need to pull the inspector in. But it's an emergency permit fee that I put in there, so I can put the elevator back in service, and then he can come back out on another day. So it's not waiting for the inspector.
Good.
That's why I did otherwise it's 150 versus 395. I could put the elevator back in service that day, once the repair's done.
You know, I'm so sorry, you guys. I was just wondering, could somebody summarize the problem for me with the elevator?
Yeah, I mean, basically the
It's
motor.
electricity.
Yeah.
Well, no, I hear electricity is the foundation of many problems, not just the elevator, but
Right.
also HVAC. But, so we separate that issue from what is going on with
So the elevator has a submersible motor and a big tank of oil. You got a pump and a motor in there. The motor's seized up for the best we can do without actually pumping the oil out of it, getting in there, but it's gone to ground, I think Jeff said. So I mean,
Right.
that's fried, plus now the contactor where the power comes into the controller, so we're gonna replace that with a solid state.
Okay,
So those two components are minimal to what 180,000 on the replacement. So that would get your elevator back up and running.
so we
Device.
don't need a whole new elevator, but we do need to fix these two components, or?
To
is
get it
this-
running, but the proposal, you do need a whole new elevator,
You
and
need a
that's,
whole
yeah,
new-
so that's, you could modernize in a hydraulic format the way it is, but we have a format that actually takes that out and put a traction elevator in, because being so close to the lake shore, I've got one in Frankfurt right now where the soil has moved and the jack is crooked. So you could do a hydraulic portion for 80-some thousand and not deal with the jack that goes in the ground. So you've got 3 floors here, so your jack, you got a hole that's probably about 40 feet deep. It goes in there, so I'm pretty sure there's water underneath there. So eventually you'd have to deal with that jack separately, and that's probably gonna run you in the neighborhood of 80 to 100,000 on that, where this budget proposal, which is it's a good number, it deals with that. It takes the jack out, fills a hole in, and you don't have any more in-ground hydraulic elevator. So you have a traction elevator. So that's dealing with the long-term problem of the 50-year-old elevator.
The other thing, Tamara, I believe that the present elevator was put in about 1972.
Yeah, I was born in '72, so it's getting up there.
Hush. Total hush. So,
So I mean, I just want to add that for you.
Yeah, so life
Do
cycles,
we have
yeah.
any other questions?
Would
Yeah.
would the repairs we're talking about, let's see, could what is installed for the repair be reused for the total elevator replacement when the time came?
Not on this
Or
one,
would it be a
yeah.
sunk cost that would just be
It was
gone?
just, correct, yeah, you're correct. The industry has moved in the fact that there's not many hydraulic elevators installed anymore at all. Life cycle on elevators, or especially hydraulic elevators, are about 25 years before you might do a major renovation. You got 50 out of this one. There's some safety features that are different and codes that are different that drove a lot of this, but ultimately my big concern here is that hydraulic jack that goes in the ground. And you can, it's still a feasible option. You can modernize just the controls and the fixtures, like I said, for 80,000, but I'm pretty sure that in '72, there are single bottom jacks where you have a safety issue. When the new code comes up in 2016, the new code it's a 16 version, Ohio made every facility rip out any single bottom jack. So if you have to deal with that jack anyways in the future, whether it blows out or whether it just has to be pulled because of code, that's a whole separate another $80,000 to $100,000. And if there's hole drilling costs or anything, you gotta bring someone inside to do inside the hole drill, and those costs could get a lot higher. So, and we're noticing on the lake shore, the water tables are just coming up.
yep.
And the pits are flooding, and it's just becoming a problematic area to try to keep water out of the pits.
Barb,
So
what
what,
did-
oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just wondering, what did the facilities committee recommend for this project? Did
Would you
you
like-
guys have an opportunity to go through all of these factors and make a
Pretty
recommendation?
much, yes.
I know we haven't gotten to those reports
We
yet,
haven't gotten to the reports
but
yet.
she can tell us the report that right now.
Yeah,
since it
Deb
was-
ran downstairs for the contract, so you can look at it yourself, the quotes.
What is the recommendation of the facilities
The
committee?
right, I said that the right thing to do for safety reasons in addition to capital improvements would be to replace the electrical panel, install a new elevator, and ground electricity.
Okay, so new electrical, new elevator. What about the fixing part? Would we be fixing anything for the time being? Because that was something that he had just talked about.
Again, it's down for quite a
Is
while.
there any,
Yeah, that's our
Well,
issue.
that's kind of why he's here, but yeah,
Yeah,
you know.
It's what I think you're saying, and I think this is something we didn't know about, when facilities met,
No, we
is
didn't
that
know.
the 9,000 plus on the quote for the repair is actually throwaway money.
that's what I'm
Right.
thinking.
Yeah.
Do we actually have to throw
We
that
have
money
to-
away if we're
we
gonna
have
do
to
it?
act.
We're gonna put it in.
That pays for the
And
service, really.
then plan on the replacement.
And that's
We have
because
to
the
be-
replacement's gonna take so long to get here, or what's,
It's a
why?
different type of system that'll be installed. I mean, it's not so it's no longer a hydraulic elevator, it'll be a traction elevator. So the motor that's going in there is not the same type of motor.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
not gonna
no.
be usable, so it is throwaway, but, so the duration, we wouldn't be installing a new elevator until summertime.
Oh,
By the time
okay,
we
that's what I'm
actually-
trying to get at.
By the time we
Okay.
actually get all the engineering done and
Okay.
designed for the building, your new elevator would actually be in the summertime, so.
Okay.
The new power line has to go in first.
And all the electrical work
You
probably
need
has to be
to-
That new
done?
drive that he
Yeah,
puts in will
it should.
definitely, it'll help the dirty power situation because it's a little more sensitive than the old mechanical starter, but it'll be a constant nuisance because it'll drop out occasionally, just like the heating system does.
But in anticipation of the replacement, we
Correct.
should do the line.
I
The
strongly
whole
suggest.
panel, the line,
No,
all of
the
that
power
electrical
line,
work?
yeah.
Well, the single-phase services on this building had been redone years ago. That's all really nice. It would be just the 440 three-phase service. But yeah, we need that power bank redone, and we need a new line under the driveway
Right.
where we set a new meter
Whereabouts
socket.
in the parking lot is it? In other words, how disruptive will digging up?
It's on that very last pole. The single-phase transformer's on the
You
one
can
behind
see
the
it.
temple, but it's on the
Oh.
very last pole here, and it's only probably 20, 30 feet from the building.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Oh, okay.
You know, so it wouldn't be tearing up the whole parking lot, it'd be just making a path over to the corner of the building and patching it. I mean, you could get by doing that. I mean, I know if you have, like, in your future plans to redo that parking lot or something, but
We do.
we could just fill it in with gravel for now and leave it be.
But related to new elevator installation, would
Thank you
the
so much.
proposed power bank remain constant, not need to be changed with a new elevator going in?
Correct, it is a system that can vary on whatever power. is
Okay,
going
so
in.
that part of the expense would not be sunk cost, it would still.
No.
No, not for the elevator.
Oh,
just
that's
the
good to know.
power.
Say
No.
again, the
Yeah.
power line is not a
The
repeat
power
cost.
line and put them on the circuit breaker box
Right.
Right.
would,
We have to basically
Save use.
have that before he can install his state-of-the-art elevator.
Which should not be a problem, just listening to your timeline, we could easily get that done before the new
but that
elevator shows
contributes
up.
to both the repair and the replacement, and it's
Right.
not a lost cost.
No,
Not at all.
no, the
Okay.
power bank would be something that
Mhm.
would, it'd be still the same voltage.
Right.
It just would clean that up tremendously, and it would stop all the other problems you got going on with the heating system.
Correct.
So those are the steps, so
Mhm.
the repair to get service immediately, replace the power line, and then in the meantime, sign off on a new,
Get into manufacturing and engineering and get
the
on,
big one.
get on the schedule.
But
Yeah,
but what
get
I'm hearing from you is that if we keep just repairing and doing pieces, our expenses are gonna be such that we will have met the
You will match
cost
that,
of
right?
the elevator.
Yeah, I
It may
made that
even
loud and
exceed
clear.
it.
Barry?
I would love to hear what Barry has to say.
To that point, and I don't know if Joyce was on the board, but I think it was 4 years ago. I think we spent about $25,000 on the elevator.
I mean, power unit, correct.
So this is now kind of the second, okay,
4
we gotta
years.
be starting to think about this. Why we didn't, and I'm saying we, I was on the board most of that time, didn't start planning for the replacement and start budgeting like we're doing for roof and other things, I don't know. But we should have been, because we've had numerous warnings that this was coming in the past, and we didn't
Well, it's
act.
an investment in the building, and if you separate the building from the library services, then, you know, that's always been historically a sticky point. Yeah.
Can I go there?
Yeah, yeah, and actually only if it contributes to conversation, because I don't want to go down that rabbit hole
Well,
of
but I
ugliness,
think
you
it-
know?
I mean, there's enough new board members that I think it at least needs to be discussed.
Okay.
That the library does not own this building.
Mhm.
We are a tenant. If this was happening in any other building that we are a tenant in, we would be going to the landlord and say, you need to fix your building so we as a tenant can operate here. When this came up 6 years ago, there was, the county commissioners directed the library to work with the county controller to come up with a lease agreement. This board attempted multiple times to make that happen, and it fell flat on the other side. We are now in a position where this board is looking at investing significantly into a building they don't own. And as a board member, or a former board member, that is wrong. I think the ultimate path is a foregone conclusion, but these documents, these agreements have to be in place. Otherwise, as a taxpayer, you've got to be questioning, why is the library spending money on something that there's no agreement in place that others would question whether or not they're responsible for? So that's a whole issue. It's unfortunately all part of this. Third thing, completely different, is in past discussions, as we're talking about the electrical side of things, there has been talk when it comes to parking lot and what goes on out there of trying to get that electric line that runs parallel to the building undergrounded. So we don't have those poles in the middle of the parking lot that we're trying to drive around. All of those things kind of come together, and we really should be thinking long-term, even though we have short-term issues to deal with, but thinking through some of those things, what would be where we want to be.
Were there
Appreciate
any
those comments,
earlier
Jerry.
recommendations about removing the poles and redoing
Again, that
the
was,
line?
I would
Years
say,
ago?
a goal was that in the future, we would try to get consumers to underground that, so we can avoid those poles in the middle of the parking lot.
Thank you, Barry, I really do appreciate those comments, because they were, some of those I was thinking myself, and I'm sorry, gentlemen, I know this is aside from your project, it definitely sounds like this building needs to have the electrical taken care of, we need a new elevator, and we need a stopgap, so our patrons are taken care of until we can get the new elevator. To me, it just makes total sense, and I'd be completely in support of the motion to take care of those things. So I don't need any more convincing, and I appreciate your work, and I appreciate you sticking with us over time to help take care of this building. But then there's that but. As stewards of this building, I don't know the right answer to this, but it does seem that we do need to involve the county. It's a significant investment in their building. And whether that's right or wrong, I don't know, and I don't have an opinion at the moment. But I do think we should involve the county so that they understand what's happening, and maybe even talk amongst ourselves about a potential ask.
Okay. What
Richard, was there
are
even
you
an outside chance
recommending
the county would
as
spring for
far
part
as
of this?
repair first?
No, I can tell you where it's gonna
He's
go.
got,
First thing probably you're gonna have, this is historical building. Certain requirements are done when you do anything to this building, because it's historical. And Barry knows that. How many times do we argue about the historical part? You know, so, and did anyone talk to Bruce about this problem with the elevator? Because we just put a new one in over at the courthouse, just a few years back. That's why I asked about Otis, because I remember what it cost us over there. But you don't own this building, the county does. And it's kind of it's a touchy issue. Barry hit on it, because it's historical. That's why the heating system, when they come to the county, they wanted $1.8 million for a heating system. I said, you guys aren't gonna get that. You're not gonna get it, they'll close the building first. And so then we got down to 400 and some thousand that we gave, and then we forgave 50,000.
Well, so I don't wanna hold you gentlemen up at all, cause this is a larger board type discussion, and I don't even know where it should start. But Joyce, as far as I'm concerned, I don't
You've asked
have,
all your questions.
I have asked all my questions, and I so appreciate your guys' time.
Oh, thank you
problem.
so
Thoroughness.
much for sharing your
One last
information.
thing,
Yeah.
Mark, make sure that the power plant you're proposing has the capacity to support the new system, that there's not going to be some kind of an increased power demand because of it.
There's actually less horsepower.
I'd say there's probably less.
Yep.
And the panel that I did propose has some expansion capability, like I didn't just size it exactly the number of disconnects that are in this one. It's got a couple extra spaces in it there, you know, which is,
Oh, good.
everything that's in there now will run as the same, including the elevator, and then we've got a couple extra spaces in there if anything ever is added to the
Will
system.
you guys compare notes though and make absolutely sure that
Yep.
it'll support a new system?
Yep, no problem.
Barbara, do you have any more?
No, because my understanding is that, I don't think it's with Jared, but you all are in communication with each other
Mhm.
on a regular basis. In fact, during one of the meetings that I was at, they were both down there having a
Different
major
guys.
discussion.
It was
Me
the
and your
technician,
tech,
yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a technician that was
Yeah.
here, but anyway, your communication is very good, and
Thank you.
I appreciate that, thank you.
One last question, the stopgap measure for the elevator, how long would that, the timing, how long would that hold up for us?
For
4
the-
months, 5 months? The $8,000 investment, just a stopgap to
I mean,
keep,
this motor's not that old, so if something took it out, again, you're beyond the 25-year life expectancy.
oh, and I'm not suggesting that we're going to
But
run
I
on
think
that
you'll
forever,
get
but,
several years without major
okay.
considerations of putting into it. But our solution does deal again with that hydraulic jack. So whatever they did, unless it's a brand new hoistway, they did not put the same type of system. They modernized. and
Oh, that one up there?
So, yeah,
Yeah,
a
they
long time
redid
ago.
that.
Yeah, in another form of life, I spent a small part of this, but again, it's not, this is dealing with your major issue, whether it's your building or not, but it's dealing with a hydraulic jack that has to be dealt with, whether it's today or somebody's
I hear
gonna
ya.
deal with that jack down there. So that's what that deals with, and I challenge you to look for that if someone else is proposing a solution for doing that, so.
Would you say we should consider a new surge protector for the interim?
It's never a bad idea, I don't think.
I have one on the 440 system already.
Okay.
Yeah, because they're not that much.
Not likely to be improvable for a reasonable amount of money.
No, like I said, the drives will definitely help because they have more sensitive perimeters in it that'll kick that drive out. You know what's going on with the motor, you won't know till you get it out. I mean, it could possibly be a mechanical issue, the bearing may be seized up in it, which burned the motor up. You won't know that till you get it out. But what I do know is that power has been a problem here on that three-phase side for a long time. They've complained about to me on those drives that they're resetting them like twice a week. You know, for you come in and the heat's out, and that would certainly fix that situation. Now, I did not take into consideration that you guys are tenants in the building, so I do get that part of it. As far as wanting to spend the extra money on it, I guess if you get serious about it, I think my next move would be to contact consumers and get an engineer involved and get some quotes out and get some proposals out as to what you guys want to do. Now, that's the first I heard about removing the poles, and that's a good idea, because if that's what you're thinking about doing, it's probably when you're going to want to bring that up to them and see what the cost of that's going to be, to put a pad mount out somewhere on the edge of the lot or whatever and bring it all in underground and eliminate them poles. Here again, I really doubt they may work with you on that power bank, but they're not going to do it for nothing. Consumers is getting more and more difficult to work with.
I have to agree with that.
Yeah. They have become such an entity that it's a lot harder to deal with them than it used to be. But then once if you're considering doing that, if you get serious about it, William Cullen is probably going to be the engineer out of Ludington, the commercial guy that they're going to assign to you, and then I can be a big help after that, because they're going to ask a lot of questions that you're not going to know, and I can't make the initial request because I don't, I'm not the bill's not in my name and I'm not the owner. But once you do that, just make the request, they'll give you a request number, and then I can get involved at that point.
What are we requesting?
You're requesting, basically a new power bank. You tell them you would like to eliminate the open delta and go to a grounded Y power bank. And then also the possibility of removing those poles and going all underground. I know what they're gonna tell you. They're gonna tell you the parking lot deal is gonna be up to you, and they're gonna probably want us to put the pipes in the ground for it. They'll do it, but they'll give you such an astronomical number that you're gonna come back to me for it, you know, because when they don't wanna do it, that's what they do. You know what I mean?
So once I make the request and get that request number, then I call you.
Yep, then you can get me involved, and I'll know the questions to ask him, you know,
Okay.
as to what you wanna do.
What was that 800 number?
It's 1-800-477-5050. I apologize in advance for the wait time, because you're gonna get put in the automated system. I find, I got a little, when she starts talking on that, just hit #0, #0, #0, and then they'll send you right to somebody to talk to. You'll skip right over all that stuff. Otherwise, it'll take you forever to get through it, you probably won't get the right person anyways, and they'll put you back on hold. But you know how it goes.
Okay, let's summarize, if you will, what steps you're recommending. The, first of all, is the repair, the motor. Secondly, work almost simultaneously as far as getting the power line underground and replaced so it's grounded. Simultaneously, we need to work with the county. Then, at that point, if we come back and have consumers' recommendations, we can also hopefully put that in steps, correct? As far as, the immediate one is the ground. And then taking out, the next step would be later, would be the poles and the parking lot. Leading to the eventual replacement. Do I have all the steps there?
I think so.
I think this is a really complicated project, the project management of it, and Deborah, did I read someplace that you would be willing to project manage this? Or was that somewhere else?
No.
I was just telling one of my staff yesterday that they didn't teach me this in grad school.
That's what I was listening.
It's on the
We've
job
talked about
training.
that, but there is quite a bit of project management, and I think that's why it was so nice to hear that you guys have such great communication, because it's gonna take a lot of coordination for those steps.
Yeah, okay, Barry, again.
Another, just a thought that I've been having as I've been listening is, a thought that I would have would be that I would recommend that the library board reach out to the county, ask Bruce Shimke to project manage this entire project, and then figure out who's gonna pay for it as a separate step. I think Bruce has the skills to do this, and because it is in this gray area, and then we can figure out who's gonna pay for what, even if it's the library paying for it all. I think that would offload that onto resources. And I think it would also state to the county, hey, this is your building. You know, you should have some skin in the game, at least from a staffing perspective, if not financially.
I don't think we should be proceeding
That's a
without
really good idea.
the county being involved.
I like the way I like Barry's suggestion though, because it's a way to get them involved. I like the signaling that kind of involvement does. It also helps us start to get this project moving, because I do not want us to not make it any kind of decision today. Like I don't know where, if you're asking for a decision about any of this today, but it does
We need
seem
to
like
get the elevator going.
we need to get things moving. Some of these other issues are really big issues, and I don't think these gentlemen need to stay here for
No.
that kind of
No.
conversation, but I would just like to say that I'd be supportive of getting the elevator stopgap measures started, and then make a motion to get our electrical figured out, and to get that all started to get queued up. With that said, we do need to talk about the parking lot and how some of that overlays,
But the board will definitely have to discuss.
those other
And-
issues, yeah.
And right now, it's an emergency situation.
Right, so,
And I just wanna throw out there that Square D builds that stuff when I order it, so you're looking at a 5 to 6 week lead time to build that panel, just so you know that.
Yeah.
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 I don't know, because I had to step out for a minute and get some documents, but I know there was some discussion, I believe with you, Mark, and the technician. If we just did the repairs right now, is the current electrical panel going to hold it? And I
It'll
think that,
work, it's just that, like I said, I keep going back to the way that power bank is built, you know, with that open delta and not having that grounded system, voltage fluctuates a little bit. I think by putting that drive on there, that will save your motor, but you'll be down there resetting that drive once in a while, I would bet.
Yeah, so we are putting a solid state component to this system now that'll help out with that. I mean, there's a board inside it that can be taken out, that's not taking the whole drive out, but just the board, so. And then if this was for a couple of years, that would possibly, you said there's already a surge protector on that line.
Yep.
So that would help for any spikes.
Any major spikes that
Yeah,
would
so
collect it.
that helps in that relationship, so. I mean, we're doing stuff in that $8,000 or $9,000 a stopgap. We're adding that solid state, which is helping prolong the life of the motor again, where that's not in place now. So at least you will have a working elevator. It's not like the jack flew out or something catastrophic, and it gives you the opportunity to go through all these other items on the list here that you have to. It's a very complex problem.
From what I hear, I would be, when we're actually going to talk about approvals for this under our new business portion, so not this moment, but I would be, until we get to that, I'm gonna roll over in my brain a motion to have the whole, not only the wire under the parking lot, but the entire panel replaced. So that entire system, and I think that that's an investment that we're making in the building as a tenant that is an appropriate investment to help us ensure that our patrons are taken care of for a short term. And then a motion to have the elevator fixed with more of a stopgap. But it sounds like that will take care of our issues to make sure our patrons are taken care of for the short term. And I feel comfortable as a board member making that investment in this building on behalf of the county. But what I would not be
We're gonna have to
interested,
get a hold of the county.
but what I'm not interested in doing today is making a motion to replace the entire elevator until we've had those discussions with the county and to at least try once again to engage them in investing in their building and their facilities. But I will be offering the very suggestion that we have Bruce project manage this entire process. And since you gentlemen have such great communication, maybe that's not even necessary, but I do think that we need to engage the county. So I don't have any more questions for these gentlemen, and I don't know if they need to stay and.
One last question, that is, assuming that things get improved, what is the soonest the elevator can be functional again?
For the stopgap portion of it?
Yes.
A week or two. I mean, once it gets approved out, I mean, then get the material here and get it on the repair schedule. It's pretty minimal time frame.
But the
Mark,
panel,
you said we needed 5 or 6 weeks lead time for Square D to provide the panel.
Mhm.
We don't have to wait for that to get
No.
going again right now?
No.
Okay.
oh,
The
good question.
panel will
Okay.
suffice, we have now,
Okay.
Right.
but not for long.
Right.
But it
The
won't
original
last.
proposal on that panel, in lieu of not dealing with the power bank, was just more of a upgrade to the ancient panel that's down there with fuses, and then when we do start having problems, we're blowing fuses and trying to figure out what's going on, and I think we ended up buying 5 or 6 fuses, and they're like $25 a piece, so it's just the inconvenience of it is why I did that. And until you improve that power bank, that dirty power, that little bit of fluctuation, that's never gonna go away.
So
It's gonna be safe, but it's gonna be inconvenient, because you're gonna be messing with it a little bit.
We're in the borrowed time area.
Yeah.
But simultaneously, other steps can be taken.
I'd like to think consumers would work with you on redoing that, because they know they're a problem, but, you
Well, we
will
can
just have to
try.
make the request and find out.
Okay. Anything else?
Thank you so much.
Thank you
No
so
problem.
much for
No
your
problem.
time and your
Anytime.
information.
So much.
Appreciate this
You're welcome.
very much, thank you.
Thank you.
So just to,
Other one.
There's too many doors in here.
Joyce,
They're all
do you
shut.
envision that we're gonna continue the discussion on the new business, or should we wrap it up now? How did you wanna approach that with the agenda?
I think.
Wrap it up?
Yeah, I think we might as well.
So I guess what I would like to forward those two motions, but before I even make them, I'm just wondering what you guys are thinking of the board members.
Personally, I think that the electrical is a major issue because I was at a meeting here and when they were down there were sparks flying.
Oh,
And,
that's scary.
and I've had enough to do with the electricity that I called the electrician. I don't wanna mess with it, thank you very much. And, you know, I think that we absolutely need to replace that, power, the panel. And we need to ground that open delta, as he calls it.
At this point, we are going to have to make a decision about getting the elevator up and running. The other
Right.
ones will be separate issues. We're gonna have to break this down in order to digest the
Oh,
whole
sure,
thing.
I was just wondering
Right,
what the
but-
other board members felt, so she's saying
And-
she really wants to do the electricity, the panel, and the
Right,
ground line.
and I think that since I heard them say here today that they can put in a new hydraulic, a new
Mhm.
motor, that is a temporary gap that will get our elevator running.
Exactly.
And I think we need to go with that also.
Okay, what about you?
Agreed.
So it's like a $17,000 investment in the building. And, for both of those, it's a $8,500 quote from Crowcheck.
That will be more.
It's gonna be
It's gonna
more
be
How much
now.
would it be, how much more?
Because that
We don't
doesn't
know.
include out to the parking lot. That's just the panel.
That's just the panel. Well, so how are we supposed to make a
Decision.
motion without knowing that number? And then the
Well-
the other sticky thing is, we don't have to have bids, do we, Barry, for this
How
work?
are we gonna get bids? There is nobody else.
There is nobody else.
And the other
I
thing
agree.
that I see, Tamara, is that, we have to contact consumers and get their engineer to work with the, electrician here, so we don't know what consumers is gonna charge either.
Okay, we've gathered all the information and we've discussed the steps. We also need to contact the county.
That was gonna be
They
my
have to
next
be
comment.
enrolled in this whole process from the get-go.
Right,
I was really hoping to make a motion to get all the electrical taken care of and to get the stopgap for the elevator today so that they could get moving.
get the pieces and parts
Um,
ordered.
That would be appropriate.
That's what I think.
But the only thing that I feel uncomfortable about is not knowing how much it costs to replace the panel, because that's not part of his estimate. And he said it was gonna be more, but how much more? Are we talking $20,000? Did he give
I
any indication
think-
how much the more is?
I don't know,
How much of this comes under an emergency repair? That's what we have to
The
delineate.
elevator.
The elevator, to get that up and
I
running.
mean, we.
Second is the new ground wire, because as he said, we can survive for a while. But we have to have the motor, and they don't even know what condition the motor is in.
I think the elevator is a foregone conclusion. I think
But
no
that's
one,
what the emotion is gonna be involved. We will have to notify the county as far as our steps we are taking on an emergency basis. Nothing else should be included, because
so we have multiple motions.
we have multiple motions
Nobody
facing
else.
us.
But because the elevator is simple to me. We're doing the,
Yes.
so I'm not even talking about that, so please don't interpret me not questioning that as me not wanting to support that kind
But
of
that's the
motion.
motion you're asking for.
No, the motion I would like to talk about is the electricity, because that's an integral part to this, it's an important part, but we don't have all the information to, so we can get this, just the, but I'm looking at this, it says replace existing three-phase 480-volt switch gear panel,
Yeah, that's for the panel.
for that's
That's
the
for the
panel.
Panel.
Oh, so we do
You know,
have all the
this big
information
thing.
for the panel, who
Yes,
just
we
said
do.
we didn't?
We don't have the line going out, this is just the
Mark
panel
mentioned-
down in the
Right.
workroom.
Mark mentioned early on, the figure $2,000 that might have been related to the possible running of the
Yeah,
underground
2
line.
to 3,000, I think is what it is.
Okay.
But then we
That's
don't know what consumers will,
Yes.
Right.
We don't know consumers'
and
costs.
digging up the parking lot.
Right.
Those are the unknowns.
And related to digging up the parking lot, would we want to, at the same time, take care of our parking lot improvements? Because my answer would be yes, why not?
Yep.
Then Barry brought up burying the power lines, which I'm all in favor for.
Absolutely.
So those are some more fact finding. Is that something, Deborah, that you would do, or would we ask Bruce to project manage all that?
I mean, I can call, I
You
can
can
call
call
consumers
consumers.
and get it rolling. And then once I get it rolling, like Mark said, I can contact him and then he can,
You'll get the
Take
parking lot
over.
guy and then he'll
Yeah.
do the rest. Right.
Once they assign a project number?
yeah, he said he
Yeah.
can't request it, but once I get it requested, then I can get him involved.
And
Okay.
talking to the county again.
So I
You
guess
guys
I'm
know
gonna,
what you're getting involved in. You haven't got a
Pardon?
clue, have they? Barry knows.
so I guess I'm going to, well, I guess we're gonna learn, aren't we, Richard? So, was there a prepared motion?
This is on the job training.
Okay, so I'm going to fumble here, Helen, this is so real, okay? So I'd like to make a motion to accept the quote from Cone Inc. to replace the hydraulic pump motor and replace the contractor, and to replace the soft starter upgrade. Oh, I'm sorry,
It's with the.
it's with the soft starter upgrade. And the quote is dated 2/12/2020.
And how much?
$8,850.
$850?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Next motion.
And I'd like to make
You're on a
a,
roll, Lonnie.
I know. But I'm gonna stay with elevators. I would like, I know we've never really done this. I would like to make a motion that we direct Deborah to engage in a conversation with the county on a complete replacement of their Manistee County's library, Manistee County's elevator.
Are you gonna include Bruce being project manager?
No, I'm just making a motion to direct Deborah to have a conversation with them about the replacement of the elevator. I don't think I need to make a motion to ask Deborah to
Probably not.
talk to Bruce.
No.
But I guess what I would like it in the minutes that the board is asking Deborah to engage in that conversation with the county about their building, because it's a big issue. And they will read these minutes, and I want to signal to them that we are having these conversations and we're talking about this issue. So,
And we've also done our homework. We've done the groundwork, the research.
so that's that.
I'll second that one.
Thank you. Call for a vote, please. I made a motion and,
That Deborah
Barb.
talked to the county.
yep, Barbara seconded, so we just
Okay.
need a all in favor.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? John, you haven't stated a timeline.
No, but I'm
Do you
sure,
want this simultaneously, or do you want this sequentially?
I want it simultaneously.
very good.
Anything that doesn't have to wait for something else.
No, right, because we have to show
That's a good
good
policy.
faith.
Mhm. I don't know what paper you have.
I was just the Crowcheck electric estimate, the 88,504 one for the panel.
Okay,
Do you need a copy?
I didn't get a copy. But that sounds reasonable to me, because that's a huge panel.
That's what we saw in the
Yeah. I think I have one somewhere.
Any other thoughts or comments?
She's getting ready to make a motion.
I am.
We're beyond the comments, okay.
Oh, no, we are.
Okay, I think I'm ready. All right, I move that we accept Crowcheck's electrical, present estimate of $8,504 to replace the existing three-phase panel. And in preparation for grounding the electrical wire, the open delta, and grounding the open delta.
No, it's not right.
Eliminating.
Eliminating.
Eliminating, thank you. It's not grounding, it's eliminating the open delta.
Doing a new power
The
bank.
existing open delta system we have versus the ground wire that we want to put in.
Right.
A new power bank.
Yeah, that's gonna lead to a new power bank.
Right. Is there anything else that needs to be included in the description?
Yeah, how you gonna pay for it? We count where you gonna get your money to pay for it.
So I support that motion, and we
Okay.
can have discussion. So paying for it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So-
You should always put an account number, how you're gonna pay for stuff when you make a motion like
Yes.
this, especially the way you're going about it. I'm just telling you, I went through the whole process and your whole board changed after that process. Helen was there and you came in at the end there. But that's why I say it's a big project, guys. I didn't know you were even talking about this today, to be honest with you.
So all we're doing is we are authorizing for $16,000 to $17,000 to be invested in the building to ensure that our patrons can use the elevator. The rest of the investment in this building for the new elevator, we're directing Deborah to have conversations with the county about. But we need to make sure our patrons can use the building.
What you're saying in essence is that we,
Basically, and then we also, well, then in that motion, do we need to say that you need to contact consumers so that we can get this number?
She knows to do all,
well,
I have it.
yeah, I don't
I'm
think your
having a
motion
problem
is-
with the motion. Because
So Richard, are you saying we need a line
Because-
item number from the budget attached to each
You
proposal?
should,
Yes.
but here's what happened before any of you were here. Now, you're gonna replace this elevator. You know, most businesses right now are on one level, and they're on one level for a reason, you don't have to have an elevator. And that's gonna cost a lot of money to fix this elevator, time and time again, you're gonna be back doing the same thing. So we were getting quotes, the previous board here, on what it would cost to move the library to a single location like the old Kmart building. Move into something like that, it's one level, you don't have to have a elevator. It's options that you gotta start considering when you start adding it all up. But that's up to you guys to do what you want at it, you know? And when you go to the county, the reason I'm bringing this up too is because I know that, what were you gonna pay for rent? Because if we gotta put an elevator and all that, the county's gonna want quite a bit of money to rent this place too. Which is true, you should get that taken care of now. But I would take and fix the elevator like you're gonna do it, just bare minimum right now, and then go over everything else.
Yeah.
Because that's what we had, and then, I'll tell you, this heating system, how much did we have, Barry, in engineering costs when we got done? We engineered it 3 times. I mean, those are things that cost that are gonna be involved here too. So,
I agree with you, and I think we're moving too far ahead. And I think right now, this board needs to only approve for the repair of the motor and all the parts that are involved in it to get the elevator up and running. We have to show good faith. Simultaneously, we will put county as part of the equation. They will be involved from the get-go. And they'll need to know that it's an emergency basis. Now, from here on in, it's who's going to plan to do what. This is a complex situation, replacement, all the steps that are involved, because there are several steps that are even involved in the repair. Whether we put the line in or not, I mean, that is outside of the immediate repair, because as these 2 men could attest to, it'll last for a while. Oh, we're on borrowed time, but our repair will get the ladder up and running, the elevator up and running.
well, that's kind of what I was getting at, because we don't know what it's gonna cost down the road. And you may decide that, no, we wanna stay here, it's costing too much money. Start considering things like that right now.
So Joyce,
I
you
mean, I can tell you how to get the money.
so Joyce, you
So, I
had
mean,
said
you
that
guys figure
you,
that out.
Wait a minute.
I'm sorry, Richard, you had said that you have an issue with the motion?
Yeah, I think we stop here. as
We
far as-
stop,
We
right.
stop motions. Our only concern here today would be to get the elevator up and running.
And that's what these 2 motions do,
Part of,
right? Or am I mistaken? We've got a motion to have the elevator, have those key components fixed.
we don't know what the county's role is going to be. I don't want to speak for the county. We can propose from now until Sunday, but what we're gonna end up doing
Right.
is having to maybe rethink our plan. We're gonna be engaging, and we don't have them engaged yet, other people.
Okay, so I'm really confused on what the issue is, because these 2 motions are geared towards a short-term fix for the elevator to get to, so our patrons can utilize the library to their fullest
All right.
capability.
As you know, the breaker is gonna take 6 weeks to order,
Okay.
to get delivered rather. That's why I see this as a separate motion. And do we have to do it now or do we do it later? In the meantime, we need to contact the county. We can have these motions on board, but we haven't included the county.
I thought we did direct Deborah to go speak to the county on our behalf to start engaging them in a conversation about
Right.
all of these issues, including project management of,
Well, we
Of
don't
a
know
larger project?
we don't know their position on proceeding with these vendors. With their role, there is a number of items that we have to discuss first.
oh, so I'm so sorry, so could you just state clearly what you would like to see happen? Because I'm not sure if I understand. Do you not want any of these motions then? Do you not support the motion to have the electrical panel replaced so that we can get our elevator up and running and not have to worry about weekly issues with
All
the
right,
HVAC?
tell
and
me
the
how you
computer?
see it. Do you see it as a simultaneous motion? Or are you seeing this as 2 separate motions, 2 separate timeframes?
I'm so confused, I don't know what the issue is.
We have to fix the elevator.
That's
And the
right.
question that I proposed, because there was conversation, whether or not if we fix the elevator, would it stick without doing the electrical panel? They did state that it would.
Okay.
So I feel we need to fix the elevator. ASAP.
So we made a
Correct.
motion to fix the
So we're
elevator.
gonna fix that.
So we did that. What is wrong with the motion to have the panel?
Because, let me see, because number one, we have to contact consumers first to find out.
But I believe he can start with the panel. And he did say, because it has to be built, it's going to take at least 6 weeks to
So
at least
he
get
gets
it started. And then in the meantime, we can call consumers and get that piece of it going.
So I all understand all of that. What is wrong? I'm just not sure what Joyce's objection is to a motion to have that panel and that work performed.
We are
What's the
obligating
issue?
ourselves to an $8,500 expenditure before we even talk to the county.
But I
I'm
don't-
okay with that.
I don't think it's a county, I think it's an operational issue, you know, to operate the elevator, to provide services for our patrons. So I don't think a conversation with the county about replacing the electrical panel is needed.
And let's
Am I-
all right,
Do you feel-
I would fix the elevator. Don't worry about the economy right now.
fix the elevator.
We have a motion,
No,
it's
you
already
don't-
been approved to fix the
Wait a minute,
elevator.
please. There's two parts to the elevator repair. There will be the immediate repair and replacement of the motor, and then the long-term, or the time frame that we have to wait for getting the panel replaced. So we are obligating ourselves for what, $16,000-$17,000. Two separate motions. Now, is that still seen as the needed repair? The panel, if it is restated, if your proposal, your motion is restated to include this panel as a necessary component for the repair.
So it's actually Barb's motion. And so you're
Sorry.
making the recommendation that she amends her
Yes.
motion to include the words that this is a necessary
Necessary.
repair in order to support the repair to the elevator.
Thank
Helen, you
you.
have that? Wow, that took a long time to get to.
Just
Because we were on different pages.
I don't think so.
We were on the same page.
We were all on the
Language
same
was-
page.
It's just
It
complicated.
was language.
Richard is saying it's time to
Just call
get
Bruce
the county
first
in
to
the
make sure
conversation.
that you're going down the right path, and he'll just rubber stamp it for you.
Thank you.
So, Barb, you've offered an amendment to your motion, and I will
did.
support that
Would you
amendment.
read that back to me, please, ma'am?
Oh, but we needed to. Forget Robert's rules of order here.
Well, the motion that you made was to accept projects like, estimate of $8,500, $8,504 to replace the existing three-phase panel in preparation of eliminating the existing open delta.
Well, as in urgent, and what did we say? As necessary
to
repair the elevator.
support the repair of the elevator.
Yes,
Support the repair.
to support the repair of the elevator.
Very good. So it's been supported. I guess we just need to call for a vote.
Okay, now we can call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Should it have been a
That's
roll
two
call vote?
motions.
It's money involved.
It's roll call?
It's
Yes.
unanimous, so.
It's unanimous.
Yes.
It's two separate motions.
Both of them probably should have been a roll call vote. All right.
It's pretty big expenditure. Good point. Deborah, you will contact county ASAP, yes?
You want me to warn that, and I'm going down the repair.
Probably not.
Please don't.
Yeah.
They'll
Let's
run.
let-
They
let's
will
let-
not take my phone call.
Let's let Deborah handle the best way she sees how. She's got take some time to think of her game plan.
Okay. Moving on,
Before we move on.
committee reports.
Before we move on, so are we doing a roll call on these two?
We should.
All right.
Now, even though, you know, like Nick said, they were unanimous. All right,
You should say yes.
We each said yes on both of
Okay,
them.
okay,
on
thank you.
both motions.
Okay.
Yes, yes. Okay, simultaneous, unanimous.
Are we back to committee reports?
Yes.
So are you gonna do the personnel?
As soon as I find it.
Here.
All right, we talked about the redoing of the director's evaluation. And revised the management position, which is also attached. The two separate items are, pardon? I thought I did have it.
No, we're not ready with it yet.
No, I know. Okay. All right. On the notes, the director's evaluation. You want me to read it, or have you all read it already? Okay, committee will, since the board has agreed unanimously that the evaluation form needs to be completely redone, Personnel Committee recommends that it be based on a job description and a strategic plan. More importantly, as the board suggested, it needs to be shorter. It will also outline expectations, support for the director, and the trust the trustees have in the director. The committee will also develop a procedure guide that will include steps for collection, summation, and discussion that focuses on the big picture performance. The board's summary of the director's performance will be shared with the director by a designated person who will share discussion results based on the new evaluation form with the director. And
Well,
Well, we can just,
we did discuss the, an assistant director for public services, but I think that's kind
that's
of on
what I'm
hold.
commenting on now.
the board had approved that position last year.
Here.
And we
Right.
we were talking at the personnel committee level about the need for a marketing and outreach position. And we decided at that time that we could take pieces of the marketing and outreach and put it into this assistant director for public services that was presented last year. So we are still working on that and hope to present that to the board next month. So that we will not only have the assistant director for public services, but also have stronger marketing. Because we have, a lot of different people doing marketing, and we were finding we need to be consistent in what we do, and we need to really get going on marketing and outreach, so.
And we're gonna recommend that the board reapprove this position, but we'll discuss it at our March meeting.
So I was wondering, I am not on the personnel committee, and I feel a little bit lost on all the different positions that are now in the library. Is there some way, or maybe you already have developed this, a organizational charter? Do you think I could have a
Actually,
copy
we
of
have
that?
we have not changed any positions yet. That hasn't been rolled out yet. What we talked
Okay.
about on the previous, when you and Barry was
Well,
on there.
no, and I not even mean that. I just meant we have had changes in
What, last
people,
month, Helen,
titles.
do you have a copy of that? Last month, because Richard had asked, all the positions are the same.
They're all the same,
They're
okay.
the same, we haven't added any, we've just got,
They have all the same titles?
yep,
Yes.
we haven't rolled,
Okay.
because that's a
Yeah.
process, if you remember.
Yeah, and I think I just got kind of lost. and maybe misunderstood that there might be something different, but there isn't. Okay,
Yeah.
then all good.
Yeah, okay.
All good then,
Okay.
thank you.
Speaking of staff, we are fully staffed.
Bravo, that's not easy.
We'll hope we can maintain it. In the facility meeting, I apologize if you turn over the personnel. I don't know where my facility meeting title went. It's probably in cyberspace somewhere. But anyway, we discussed the team lighting and the fluorescent shields are broken and there aren't any replacements for the fluorescent tubes. So Kralchek Electric estimates the new lighting fixtures to be about $5,273.25. And the facility committee recommends that the lighting in the teen area be replaced. And then we went on to discuss the elevator, because it's been down, and I think the main thing is that, and we've already taken care of replacing the elevator and replacing the electrical panel, which is necessary to run the repairs of the new, to efficiently run the repairs to the elevator, so that.
But we have not agreed to replace the elevator, as
And
you
not
said.
at this time.
Thank you.
So, and, you know, at this time then, replacing the elevator is not,
Been deferred.
The one thing I'd
It's
add to
been
the
different.
minutes would be that Pam did a really good job of giving us perspective on this.
oh, she did. Thank you. And then there was a discussion about remodeling the directors and assistant directors' offices to make them more private, and this will be discussed after the urgent and necessary concerns are made. And the other projects for 2020, the asbestos tile, shelving, carpeting, and paint may not be quite finished this year due to all of these unforeseen, what do I want to say? Emergent or urgent concerns. And Deborah also was in contact with the Library Design Associates that would be willing to act as project manager and combine space planning work areas with the execution of the project. And this has to do with the first floor project. The open shelving, the carpeting, the painting, all of that. So I think that's also, I don't know where we are with, are we just getting information from the Library Design Associates? Or we just discussed it,
Yeah, you discussed that we would wait to see what happens with the elevator,
debater and.
the electrical. There was no direction given.
Right, at that time. Because also, we have the strategic plan that is to be completed by August, and the union contract negotiations are starting soon because they will end in October 2020.
Thank you. Policy. Update on the Patrons Code of Conduct policy. A revised policy was approved in 2019, and there was just 2 minor corrections because of the repetition of the verbiage. The committee discussed and suggested revisions that will send the revised version to the board for review, and the committee recommends approval. On the material selections, That is under, it's being acted on right now. The committee will review the current policy and compare it for updates. HN has challenged a DVD and submitted a statement of concern. And per our current policy, the book selection committee will meet and discuss, which we have done. The committee will consist of Deborah, Pam, Julie, and a board member, Joyce. And as I said, this is in process right now. Meeting room committee review the current policy and suggested changes. Our intent is to maintain usage of the committee, of the meeting room for the Manistee nonprofit groups for civic, cultural, educational purposes. Deborah will research the room capacity recommendations and kitchen regulations. Joyce will prepare the first draft of the revised policy for the committee discussion at a future meeting. Okay, DDA and the finance did not meet. Now, under old business, there's the board self-assessment. And I was to have compiled the results.
I haven't done it, I apologize.
I know. I had to move along anyway, so.
I promised to do it, that it won't be part of this
You know,
compilation, so.
well,
You can, and then we can revisit it next month. I think it would be helpful.
yeah. Well, I had this, you're gonna have to give me a second here. I have this all sorted out and printed up as far as what my assessments were. I have the conclusions here. I think I'm gonna postpone it. And that way, I had it with me, at least I thought I had. We'll postpone it for, and then you can send me your copy, if you would, please. All right, now, the next item are my comments. Under old business. And at the January meeting, a request was not made to the board for other nominations to the office, and that's depending on the version of Robert's Rules of Orders that you're looking at. So we have encountered in our professional experiences various forms of Robert's Rules of Orders. And we really don't have our own written into the record format for conducting the meetings. And I am suggesting that we consider a process, put it, in other words, have it written up. If somebody wants to write it up, I appreciate somebody volunteering. But, so we have it in a format, formally entered in the minutes, that this is how we proceed. Throwing out different remarks about Robert's Rules of Orders, it could depend on which one you were using at the time and what your experience was in other boards. So, do I have a volunteer?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sure. So let me repeat back to you what I think you're asking, just to make sure I understand. You're looking for us to formally identify a Robert's Rules of Order version that we all agree upon, and that we have it in a format that is usable for us during these meetings. Okay.
Like today, with the
The roll call?
the roll call versus, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Because
money though, that's.
It's money,
every
but
Robert's
where I
Rules.
have been on boards, they've set an amount. that,
Oh, you mean how you write your motion?
that's right,
Yeah, well, we might need some training on how to write a motion, because motions are really rough.
yes.
Yeah,
I don't know if Robert's Rules of Order will really help us with that per se, but I agree, and I will do some research and bring that back
Good,
to
yeah.
us. So,
And,
oh, I do an evaluation and
yeah,
homework.
Have to check the catalog and see if they've got the most current version available.
Right, and you know, well, I even looked online and there are a bunch of them.
Multiple editions, right?
Well, maybe there is a version that is standard for library boards to use, and that would be.
Go through the.
I couldn't
Michigan
find it.
Library.
I couldn't find it, and I didn't want to spend any more time, because I already
Sure.
have done some homework on
You should
this.
ask the librarian to research it for you.
I have several of them downstairs.
What do we want to do as a board?
Yep.
That's the question on
I
the
hear
table.
ya.
All right. All right, and this other point I wanted to make was repetitive. Okay, and that's all I have. Now, any comments or anything? Ready to move on to the next one? We have new business. Motion to approve the quote from Prozac Electric for the lighting in the teen area. Ta-ta, we have the show and tell. We have the light fixture.
Show and tell. That's the lighting fixture. As the facilities committee, I think, reported, the plastic covers in the current space, which is the teen area, all the plastic covers, and rather than replacing just the covers, we know that that area needs some better lighting under there, so we thought we would just go ahead and just replace the lights rather than just replacing the shields on them. So that is the quote that you should have in your packet
Yes.
for that project.
So, because Barry's not here, I will evoke his comment that we've heard over the years, which is taking care of the lighting in the library has been a longstanding concern and been brought up many times. And we, as a board, never really dove into that because we were gonna do this little project here and this project here. And so now we're talking about lighting. And I don't feel like I can do this topic justice because I've not spent the time thinking about it like Barry had. But I do know enough that it was recommended that the entire lighting of the library be evaluated, so I know that. And I have always had objections to doing little pieces without the overall plan because of my background and who I am, but we have been moving along quite lovely and doing some beautiful updates to the library on our budget, and I've been very pleased and excited, so you know that. But here we have a situation where we're going to do a piece of something that is part of a greater whole. And while I don't have objections to doing that piece, I do wonder how does it fit with the greater need for improved lighting in the library. So I don't know anything else to ask. I don't know any other types of questions, like is there other electrical that needs to be thinking about? Do we have style issues, like will it match? Do we have a larger plan where all the lighting is gonna be in unity? Are the light bulbs going to emit the same type of light? So that when you look into the library, you don't see white light or yellow light, you know, you don't know what else to ask, but I just know that we have talked about this.
I know it was discussed, Barry's time, I'm sure in Joyce's, since Joyce was on here. I don't know how much of it was discussed when they were talking about the HVAC project. I did see bits and pieces, but if they had a plan, I don't know. Barry might be able to talk to that, if you would like. I mean, I understand, and I know that, you know, you want this bigger plan. And what we have found, like we found with the electrical, with the elevator, with everything else, you know, in the lighting under there is a problem. We have to address it because the bulbs are open. So we have to address it. And that's what we're finding, you know, like with the material selection policy we just found, it's 1998. We found it because something came up and we have to address it. So I feel, you know, that's what we've been doing since my time here, unfortunately. You know, and we do have this big strategic plan that hopefully will answer some of those questions, you know, that where Richard was talking about, you know, do we want to stay here? Do we want to have a one-level library? All of these things will be answered at some point. You know, so, you know, yeah, I guess we could put together this big plan to, you know, address all the lights, but like I said, I'm addressing things as they come up, and
We have so much out there to consider.
We do, it's overwhelming
And,
almost.
It's,
It is.
it is like the policies, they're ongoing, we're reviewing them, updating them, and then things do come up that in relationship to the policies. Like, and then your comment about the lights, to the best of my recollection, we have done the lighting with the project. Like, we added the lighting for the HVAC, this room. This was I'm one of the ones who insisted on it, that we do something with the lighting in here. And that is, I think, at this point, the best we can do. And yes, strategic plan is coming. The wisdom of a grand plan, when we don't know if we're still here, may not be time well spent.
Well, I would like to express that I appreciate the last part of that comment, and where you said it may not be time worth spent because we may not be here. And at some point, a facility becomes overwhelming for one entity to have to keep repairing and keep it up to a certain standard, that even though we're really, I think we do a very good job with our fiduciary responsibilities, along with that is the point where you realize it would not be responsible to go a certain step forward. So I don't know if we're there, and I think we're gonna have those discussions during the strategic planning process. I bring that up just because we have talked about lighting. I'm not objecting at all to having good lighting for our team in our teen area. It's, you know, I've always said I just don't wanna keep nickel and diming us.
I think many of us suspect we're getting close.
Okay.
And I agree with what you're saying. I mean, this is something that's we're becoming aware of,
Yeah.
and something we should watch. You know, it's just, we don't know. We don't know if we're gonna get a reprieve by repairing some of these that, you know, like the elevator was deliberately put off years ago.
Certainly was, wasn't it? Yep.
Yeah, and now we're paying the piper.
Yep. And then you could say
So-
the same thing about the lighting and a lot of these, the asbestos.
It's called deferred maintenance.
It's just really crazy. Because today we will have spent over $22,000 of money that we didn't plan on, we didn't budget. But we need it to keep moving and to service our patrons, and
But we do have the money to spend, which is still our prudent budgeting.
yeah.
And
But if we do something bold and grand, we're gonna need every last penny.
what, Nicholson?
Could we talk about what the probability would be that within 10 years we'll be at a new facility? And would the county board have any kind of strong feeling on that sort of thing?
No, I mean, the county's just gonna sit back and let it go, because you're asking the county now, how much are you gonna charge us for rent? That's what you're asking Deb to go over to the county for.
Right.
Then you have to figure out, after contract, how much it's gonna cost you for rent. Then you gotta come back, you gotta start thinking about, do I wanna pay that rent here, or do I wanna pay it here? You see, that's the road you're going down. And that's why be cautious, watch what you're doing here, because we had all these questions 10 years ago. I mean, you know, about should you stay or should you leave? we got in arguing about the windows. You know, you just can't put any glass in there, it's gotta be historical glass. Oh yeah, we got everything down there. But just something for you to think about, you know, I mean, 'cause an older building, you know, you need more power in the building for the new technology. Maybe that's the reason you wanna go to a bigger building, you know, on the single floor, cause then you're AD compliant, you ain't gotta worry, everybody's saying like, the elevator's not working, and turn you in. Those are things that we had talked about. And you guys, you're gonna all go over this again, I can tell you right now.
Deborah, would you say that you and the staff think a new building would be a very good idea?
We do. We have had conversations, actually, we were having a conversation last week with a couple staff members talking about our dreams and what we see and what we need. You know, going into the strategic plan, that was the idea behind it. I mean, we know what we need. We need space. We need study areas. We need, you know,
More meeting space.
you know, so we do have conversations, but we also see this as a historical building in this community. And we would see this as like a branch library within the city. So I believe that our investments that we are making will continue, you know, I mean, we would hope 50 years from now, I mean, we won't be here, but 50 years from now that, you know, this is still a library, still serving the people in Manistee, but also with the dream of having a state-of-the-art library for our patrons, because so many communities across America are building those libraries, the one-level libraries that have everything that you could possibly need. So yes, we do have those conversations.
I wonder if we could charge you with a research project to determine how many Carnegie libraries in the United States are still Carnegie libraries, not used by some other.
It's on the internet. You can just look that up. I mean, I have looked it up.
Yeah, I know there's some in the state. My first library I worked at was in Ishpeming, up in the UP. It was a Carnegie. They renovated the entire thing. They put in a ramp, an elevator, redid the basement for meeting space. I know how, I haven't been able to get over there yet, but they did a major renovation on their Carnegie. And some have abandoned them, you know, but they're now museums or something, you know. It's not like, you know, you just want to abandon this building, you would want somebody in it. But yeah, so I've seen both sides.
And Ludington has built onto theirs.
Yeah, they built onto theirs.
And they use their Carnegie Library for meeting rooms. It is not the library portion. Done a very nice job of integrating the two buildings. But in answer to your question, there aren't many left that are still as libraries.
But-
Some are bigger and some are smaller.
But like I say, I would envision this as a branch, a downtown branch library, if we ever got that state-of-the-art somewhere out. I have a piece of property picked out, I've got it all.
Well, I do think though that, you know, I would hate for word to get out on the street that we are planning on doing something different. Right now, we are in this building and we're making our repairs. And we are going to engage in a strategic planning process that's going to engage the residents of Manistee County to hear what they have to say. So any kind of decisions about any of that will happen during that process. But until then, we have to figure out our smaller projects, right? So,
I mean, that's the
do we
best
have
I
a
can.
written motion for, I'm sorry, because I don't
No.
think I have a full packet. Is there, I see the one here for.
I might not have written up a.
No, but you can just move to replace. Do you want?
Oh,
I think you
thought
just are doing it.
I move that we replace the lighting in the teen area by Prochec's estimate at $5,273. I think it's 4 though, and 25 cents. Gonna clean that up.
Support. And then we'll take a roll call.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes?
Yes.
Just, Deborah, just to state the obvious, we'll double check to make sure that the light bulbs, I have a real problem when we have different colored light bulbs. These aren't so bad though. But you know, the difference between blue light and yellow light, and I think it looks
They're
shabby.
getting harder to find and probably these are gonna be, LEDs. They're LEDs, so.
But they're warm,
Such
cold
longevity.
LEDs.
Right,
So-
I understand that.
Yeah, we work with Mark on, you know, picking and his suggestions and, you know, so I think if we continue to work with Project Electric, you know, as we expand our lighting projects, I'm sure he will make sure that everything,
Unified.
Right, he's gonna lead it, he's going to guide us the right way.
All right.
Very good.
Okay. Then there's the motion to approve payout for Mary Russell.
So moved?
Support?
$160.31.
I move that we make a payout to Mary Russell at $160.31.
$60.31. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? I will sign and date it.
okay.
And I have one last thing.
No, we're not
No,
done.
we have the
We have the Wellston
Wellston
renovation
project.
project and the Patriot Code of Conduct revisions.
Oh,
yeah.
we passed over the Wellston renovation project.
Yeah.
I move, I don't know. We had
So
discussion.
I gave you a
Give
little,
us a kind of a,
I give you a little,
It wasn't on the,
pa-
Yeah, it
you
is.
know, we've got a lot of different things going on, so
Obviously.
we'll talk about this and working on this and working on this and talk about this. And so this was something that Pam has been working on, we've been talking, Julie, Michael Lynn, who is the branch manager out there, Nick, trying to make that very small space, not only staff friendly, to make her process work better, but also provide a small space with some seating for the patrons, because I don't know how many of you have been out there, but it is a
It's been
very
a long
small
time.
space.
it's a very small.
So Pam's been looking at that, we've been talking and what would work. So as I stated earlier, we will be getting the Selma funds of $29,418. And as we all know, we spend those to, you know, improve our spaces for our patrons in all of our branches. And so this project, on the reverse side, these are some things that we will be purchasing. So it's just kind of a estimate. So that's why I rounded it up to $5,000 to be spent out of the Selma funds for 2020 for that small Wellston renovation project. And we, to go along with that, I believe it was in my director's report, in all of our branches, including here, we are creating a, what we're calling a self-service station, where the patrons will be able to do their own faxes, make their own copies, so we're pulling that out in all of the branches and creating that small station so that, you know, the patrons can do those services themselves if they would like.
I think that's such a great thing. I don't have any questions.
I move that we approve the renovations of the Wellston Branch Library for $5,000.
Support?
Yes,
should we do a roll call? And
I
just-
think we're fine.
I'll just say
Okay.
yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
I think you should add that Selma fund.
Oh, the $5,000
Yes.
Selma fund, thank you.
Funded by the.
It's past my food time.
Okay. Have that approved?
I'm gonna bring snacks next time.
Now, the patron code of conduct.
This is very simple. I had Helen attach a little thing on here, because I didn't want to give you a copy of what needed to revise and then a final copy, just to kind of save paper and kind of save you having to read and read and read. So basically, what I put on there, the marijuana issue was addressed twice, so removed from 3R, and cell phone use was removed. It was actually saying they can use it, but then we were saying they couldn't use it. So those were fixed, and this is the final version of the Patriot Code of Conduct policy. I guess you need to approve.
Oh, okay. So I'd like to move that we approve the final version of the Patriot Code of Conduct policy.
With,
Second.
no, wait a minute, with the.
I was looking
Words.
for a date on this. With the suggested revisions regarding the marijuana, with the suggested revisions.
Support.
Support? Okay. All right, roll call,
No.
vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Alrighty. Those two done. Now, something that was brought up by Deborah, under the Board of Trustee, comments. There is the Small Rural Conference, which is gonna be held in Traverse City. I have a copy of this conference for all of you. There are 9 highlighted conferences or sessions, if you will. I would like, if anybody wants to go, we suggest everybody go, that you focus only on the highlighted ones, because this is the, it covers the relationship we've been talking about with the trustees, with library leadership, with friends.
When is this?
April 13th to April 15th. And, just like in school, I would like a report prepared, and if you attend different, hopefully you will all attend different conferences, so we will have a composite of information brought back to the board.
Yeah, so what I do when I have my staff go to conferences, workshops, when they attend these sessions, I try to have them do different sessions so that we have a lot of information. So like Joyce said, I highlighted 9 of the sessions that have to do with trustees, friends. So like Joyce said, we'd like you to focus on those. I think there's some really good ones that would be really beneficial. So if you guys were, a couple of you could go, maybe planning together, saying, I'll go to this one, you go to this one. That way then you can do a summary and then, share with each other. That way everybody's learning what you learned. If there's handouts that were given out, share those with each other. That way, maybe we can get enough board to attend all 9 of these sessions.
Like one of these sessions is working effectively together, local municipal officials and library leadership. We have the strategic plan upcoming, we're talking about engaging the community. These would all be good opportunities for us to get some other insights.
It looks like, now that I'm on the right place in my calendar, that I can go.
Okay. I can also go.
I'd really like to go. Those are, I still work, so those are 2 of my work days, but I am looking at, some of these, and maybe I could go, and the ones that I could cover would be in the morning and the night, or in the afternoon when I could do stuff. It does look like Tuesday is kind of a big day. On Monday, it doesn't even start till 1:30. So I would like to go and then work with everybody to make sure. Deborah, do they have partial registration amounts? Like if I
No,
do go
this
Tuesday?
is
It's an all or
this is
nothing.
the cost for the entire thing,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Well, is it still an okay thing, an okay expenditure if I were to only go like on Tuesday?
I think it's very important, like I said,
Okay.
these 9 sessions that are, I know that there was, Joyce had shared part of the board assessment with me, and somebody had wanted board training. Here's your opportunity.
Here's the opportunity, right? I'm really excited about going, and it's nice, the idea that we'd all be covering something different, providing a report that seems very efficient, so.
So maybe for March's meeting, well, we can, if you want to go, let me know. We will get you registered. Julie will get you registered. Let her know. And then maybe take a look at these 9 sessions. Come to the March meeting with what you think, know you can go to, and then we can have that discussion. So say, if 2 people said they can go to this, well, could you go to this so that they're all covered? Because I think if three of yous go, or what about you, Dick?
I won't know till I can check a calendar.
Okay,
But I'll
okay.
kind of be the person in reserve if somebody else is needed to cover all the bases.
So say, and go with that, and then at the March meeting, see where everybody's at.
Sounds like a great plan.
Okay.
Good deal.
How far in advance do we have to be pre-registered? I mean, is there a deadline for registration? Let's put it another way.
I'm sure there is, that registration just opened.
The deadline to register is April 1st.
Okay, so we have our
time.
March meeting.
We have our March meeting, yeah, that's good. Okay, very good. And then we'll get hold of Roz when she gets here.
Maybe she would like to go.
All right. Do you want to speak to future agenda items? Or just leave it for you?
No.
Okay. Right, then, I think it's, any more comments?
I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Okay, move to adjourn at 11:49.
Support.
That was a lot.
I was
That's
asked
awesome.
if